It's cold one today, everybody. But, we're gonna get through this. As you can see, I've got the Destiny open in the background. Partly so I don't get kicked, so I will be going back and forth to it every once in a while to make sure I don't get kicked. And we're gonna cover a debate. It's gonna be a little hard to do PvP and debate covers effectively, but I can give it my best shot. Crucible matches, solar damage, grenades, rumble. Oh, I hate rumble. I'm bad at rumble. I am fucking god awful at rumble. Like the worst.
Underway.
I don't care. Just get rid of blues. Just, I don't need any of them. None of them are worth it. This isn't worth it. They're all bad. Get them out of here. Go. Get out of my fucking postmaster. Get that out of here. 2:30. Okay, that beeps up some stuff. Alright, and now I've got some space. Cool. So, yep, what we're gonna do is actually this right here. And we're gonna cover this debate. It's Vaush versus NonCompete in place of Luna.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, yeah, thank you for agreeing to talk to me. I want to set this up by saying there is overlap between our audiences, and some of the people who watch your stream and watch mine have told me that I should reach out to you and talk to you, and they said you would be reasonable. I don't watch a ton of your content, you know, so I'm taking their word for it and gonna talk. I want to talk to you in good faith, and I know that there has been what some might consider drama or beef going on between you, me, and Luna, and some other people developing for some time. So I just want to address that and give you the opportunity to respond to some questions and things like that. So does that all sound like what we kind of agreed to in the emails? Does that sound
my
good to you?
pleasure. No, this is a bit of a novelty for me. Normally, when people disagree with me, they sort of just take shots on Twitter. I actually have a lot of respect for people who like hashing it out. You know, whatever you know, my reputation might precede. I do actually enjoy just calmly talking about
really
disagreements.
Just picks up
you know,
everything.
but yeah, hit me up. You sent me an email the other day, and you know, some people in chat were complaining, like you put out a video shit talking me.
Let me know if it echoes a lot.
In the email, to your credit, you did say, "Hey, I'm going to put this video out, so don't interpret this as some kind of like sneaky, you know." So yeah, I don't think they have anything to complain about.
Yeah, and then also, you know, people have differences about what's appropriate and what's not. One of the reasons I put the video out before the conversation was because I wanted to kind of formulate my thoughts and have some sort of basis to speak on. You know, so I do want to try to get your. Yeah, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to some of the things I said. I doubt you've had time to watch it because it was a very long video, and you know, it's only been like maybe 11 hours since I uploaded it. So
No, I'm afraid I have not. I saw some people in my community reacting to it. Some liked it, some didn't.
However, he has since watched it, and I have watched it, and it's fucking dog shit.
You know, I'm known for having a disagreeable community, so I guess I'll see when I see.
Wait a minute. Let me just. Okay, so all right, so yeah, I think we're all on the same page about that stuff. So the meta discussion, I guess, is out of the way. We can talk about the real issues.
Yeah, hit me up.
Okay, so there's three things, and I told you in the email, like three things I really wanted to kind of talk about, and the first thing is about, and I don't expect this to be a very long discussion. The first part, I wanted to just talk about the responsibility that we have as creators that
I literally cannot tell which one of these people is Vaush.
have a large platform, right? So like, You and I both have
first issue, you're
pretty
white.
large platforms. I've got like over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. You have, I don't know, what are you up to now? You're pretty big.
It's like 360, 370, somewhere there, I think.
Yeah. Well, you have a ton of people watch your stream. I mean, you have very impressive numbers in terms of watching your live stream. So I think it's safe to say that we both have pretty substantial platforms. I guess the first question I would ask is just, in general, do you agree with me that when somebody has a large platform,
Oh, fuck.
it comes with a certain
Potato's not
responsibility?
Potato.
Yes.
I actually got a kill.
I
early
figured
on.
you'd agree with me on
That's
that.
not because normally
and-
if I get a
and-
kill early on.
Do you also agree
I do not get
that
a
part
kill
of that
the rest of the game.
responsibility is trying to develop an understanding of your audience? And because, you know, your audience is not a monolith, my audience is not a monolith. There are different kind of like sort of
Wow.
divisions within every audience,
guy's
right? So you kind of have to
decimating
get to
with
know
fucking
your audience
fusion.
and understand how they are, the different sections of your audience are likely to react, and just kind of
place. Oh my
be familiar
God.
with your audience, right? And so, I mean, do you agree with that? I guess I'll ask first.
I don't know if it's a moral obligation, but it's definitely a good idea.
Yeah, we're just not gonna go that way.
Okay, yeah. Well, here's why I think that, I don't know about the word moral, but here's why I think it's important
Oh my God.
for people, especially doing
Should I have-
political activity,
Yeah,
you know,
probably
like
should,
discussing
warmed up.
political topics and that sort
This
of
is
thing.
my warm-up.
I think it's important because
I only need to play one.
obviously we influence our audiences, right? And if you were doing like
Swap
unboxing
weapons.
streams or just like let's play videos or whatever, you know, I think that the degree of responsibility can vary. But when you're talking about political things, you're influencing people politically, and you also have to know that there will be like mutual impact. So like you might say things and then they'll go out and do things, and vice versa, right? So I guess that's the basis of my next question, which is, you must realize that because you debate people on the far right quite a bit, and because of the nature of what you do with your debate streams, that sort of thing, that there are a large number of right-wing people who watch your show.
Of course there are.
I don't know if there are a large number of right-wing
Some.
people who watch my show. There probably is a good number of politically undifferentiated
What?
people, but at least in the communities that I've seen
Okay,
and
I guess I don't
cultivated,
get to
my
fucking
YouTube
swing,
comments, my
like, at all,
Discord,
really.
whatever. I think the closest right bent I have is an annoying group of liberals who insist on watching me. Apart from that, I don't think I have many hard right followers.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not. I don't want to use any like loaded terms
I don't know.
like audience or followers or community. I just think that it stands to reason that if you're regularly having discussions with people on the far right, there will be some overlap between your audiences. Some of them are gonna come over and like hate watch you. You know, like I even get hate watchers on my channel, so I know there's an element of that.
Of course, you
But
fucking
yeah, I guess my
clean-up
point
artist.
is, if you know that there are right wingers, even if it's in you know, law of large numbers, you have thousands of people that watch your stream. So even if it's like a small percentage of your audience, that's still going to mean there's like maybe hundreds of people,
Can I slide
you know, that are
instead of just
fascist or
crouching?
racist
What the
watching. That's
fuck?
possible. I don't want to debate about the numbers or whatever, but I guess okay. So I'm going to move on to the next point of my platform here, and then I'll let you just totally respond to my point, because I'm almost done making my point. So if you have, if it's true that there are any right-wingers watching you, that's one thing. And then another way to know, I guess a metric of whether you have right-wingers or not, is how people engage after you've done something, right? So like if I make a video,
Really?
I'm going to try to gauge the outcomes. I'm going to try to watch what people are saying on social media about it. I'm going to go to
pops up
Reddit
out
and
of
check that
nowhere.
out. I'm going to check the comments on my channel or whatever. And so what I've noticed, and a lot of people have noticed, is a pattern where whenever you talk about somebody who is,
Come on, game.
shall we say, marginalized, you know, black or trans or person of
My
color
account doesn't do what
or
it's supposed to do.
what have
My
you,
fucking
there's a
fusion
tendency
doesn't
for
do
those
what it's
people
supposed to
to receive a lot of kind of like after
I'll steal
effects,
that.
collateral damage in terms of harassment, threats, and other kinds of like, you know, disturbing attacks like that. Now, I've seen it happen with Luna because I'm married to her. We spend all of our time together. I monitor, I help her administrate her comments and that sort of thing. And I also know other people who have shown me similar results, you know. So I guess my first question is, are you aware of that, or would you deny that that's something that happens?
I think I've mostly seen it. You know, there's a whole narrative about my community harassing people, but in spite of nearly 3 years of trying to track down the people actually doing this, I've yet to be provided a single piece of evidence of it actually
He
happening.
still has it?
Usually the initial claim is some very
Of
severe,
course.
you know, Vaush community,
Did
you
they
know,
buff him?
harassing, like really bad stuff, right? But then I get some screenshots, and it's usually people just being kind of mean, which I'm fine with.
Yeah. As somebody who, I'm not in Vaush's Discord, so I'm not like really in his community. I know that I am fairly mean to people sometimes.
There can be only one winner.
There's not like
Come back strong.
racist vitriol and shit like that. And I follow a lot of the people who are around Vaush. And I don't ever see it. And nobody ever sends the proof. So come on. Like, we're tired of this shit. Always getting painted as a villain. Always.
I don't have a problem with people being mean to people I don't like. I guess it's possible that this happens. It's just not something that I've been provided substantive evidence of. If it can be provided, I'll ban those people from my community. But yeah, outside of that, I don't think it's I just don't think it's that much of an issue.
Okay. Yeah, so, okay, I guess I'm not going to press it too much farther. I will say that, like, this is the kind of thing that it's kind of hard to
Substantiate.
litigate and substantiate, right? Because, like, so for instance, I can just tell you from my personal experience that, you know, since I literally look at Luna's comments every single day on her YouTube channel, I kind of get an idea. Like, she does get racist comments every day, you know, and you know that that's probably true. Just because any person of color, black person on the internet that's putting themselves out there and talking about politics is going to receive that kind of thing. So she does get those kinds of comments every day. But every time you've done a video where you talked about her, suddenly there's like a big uptick in the number of those kinds of racists and just terrible kinds of disturbing comments. And the only other time I've ever seen that happen, it's only happened twice before, and once was after we had the discussion with Destiny, and once was after the armchair historian and her had a little bit of a back and forth. And it's never ever happened again. Lots of other people have criticized Luna, but those are the only 3 examples. And so something tells me, it's just here, I guess let me put it this way. My instinct is there's something going on there. And if you think that that matters, I would encourage you to take it seriously and investigate it more on your own and see if you can find out more, and just keep that in the back of your mind, I guess, as you move forward when you talk about people who are vulnerable. Now, Luna Luna and I are in our 30s and we have each other and we're stable, but and the reason I'm not trying to preach at you, but I know that you're aware that there are people out there who are more vulnerable. There are
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to preach at you. That's exactly what the fuck he's doing.
people who are younger. There are people who have mental instability and might be inclined towards self-harm and that sort of thing. So I guess I'm just saying.
Yeah, and if you can provide evidence of harassment to those kinds of people,
From one big content creator to the other, it's something that I do, is try to be careful about how I cultivate my audience. I try to identify the strengths and strengthen those, and I try to identify weaknesses and negate those as much as possible over time. So I'm not trying to preach at you, but that's something I wanted to make you aware of, that's something that I've seen happening personally with Luna's audience. So.
Well, I saw that tweet from Luna where she screenshotted some groypers quote tweeting her and said that they were sort of insinuated that was a product of her mentioning the talking with me. I mean, I'm a large content creator. There are people who hate watching me. I also have, oh wait, hold on. I'm getting some feedback from your end when I talk. Do you know what that might be?
Did it just start? Or has it been
No,
going on?
it's been happening. It's like a sort of static and like a gain pitch, kind of.
Did that fix it at all?
Let me see. Talking. Yeah, okay, wait, I think that did. Yeah, okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
I saw those screenshots. Oh, people are saying my voice is too loud in your stream. I don't know if that's
Probably
the case.
just both problems simultaneously, I think. So.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, obviously, as a product of my size, beefing with me is going to cause a lot of engagement, and there might be negative consequences to that for, like, marginalized people, because I'm broadly known on the right. I don't know if there's a way to directly attribute that to me. I know they're not my audience. I don't think I have a substantial groyper audience at my beck and call. I just don't know if
Yeah,
there's anything I can really do about that, because at that point, it's not even about my community. It's just about the size of my channel and exposure given to people that I disagree with. And we're working off tenuous connections as well. I mean, it could very well be that even if I was perfect,
EJ is making that one big mistake. He's assuming that every form of engagement is different. Okay, don't draw. So yeah, no matter the kind of engagement Vaush gives to any
This is it.
content creator, just because of the size of his platform, there's going to be people who see that and have negative opinions or whatever about it. Like, what is it? I don't even know.
typically responsible with all my engagement. Merely the act of being signal boosted to the level that one is when they engage with me would then increase the likelihood of that kind of negative opinion. There's just, it feels like the link here is tenuous enough that I don't have a direct control over it, or really even an indirect control. The only solution would be, I think, to just not ever engage with, positively or negatively, any other figures who are marginalized, which probably wouldn't be good. It doesn't seem like a sustainable solution, I think.
Well, okay, there are a few things there. I guess I'll push back a little bit again. So the first thing would be, you know, every time there's something you can do. Every time I talk about somebody who I disagree with, who could be receiving that kind of, you know, hate, like, I'm very careful to tell my audience, like, do not harass this person, blah blah blah. That will help with your actual audience, your community, the people that you actually like enjoy. But then also, you just, I don't know, I think you could be more selective about some of the things that you say about certain people, because there have been instances, like with, for instance, when you talked about Luna, I don't think that calling her a useless stepchild of Vietnam, I think that might fan the flames of like racial problems. I'm not saying that you were intentionally being racist, that's not the point there, but I think that having that kind of super vitriolic statement could perhaps fan the flames. I think maybe when talking about people in marginalized positions, you could perhaps just stick to the facts and to the ideas more, instead of bringing up the personal vitriolic remarks like that, calling them stupid, using ableist slurs and that sort of thing. I think that might be one way you could kind of control some of that. You know, do you like completely disown and denounce the people who have made racial comments about Luna since you made your stream about her?
Oh, anyone who makes racist comments about Luna is either not a part of my community, or if they are, should be removed from it.
Okay,
I'm not a racist, and I don't tolerate racism on any of my platforms. If it really is like hate followers who are watching
this
or
person
simply
is just
responding
fucking
to an
unkillable.
increase in
Yeah,
visibility,
sure.
though, nothing I say will change anything. I mean, I could have a positive interaction. In fact, I know this because I have had positive engagements with people, marginalized people, either race, gender, sexuality, who then got harassment after talking with me, not just from the rest of the left for deigning to talk with me, of course, but just as a product of being made visible, you know? So if that is the group responsible predominantly for the real vitriol, I don't think there's anything I could do other than be silent. In terms of like harassment from my community, like the tone that I set, I'm okay with it. I'm generally quite mean to conservatives or people that I don't like. I think that's okay. I think that the vitriol is sort of an essential component.
Okay, you don't think that when you said that Luna's a useless stepchild of Vietnam, that could, even if you didn't intend...
Okay, now this is one of the dumbest things. Vaush said that the Vietnamese government produces bastard stepchildren. As in, like, you know, they just follow blindly and are not usually treated very well. It's like a nationalism dig.
10 seconds.
He explains it very well. And EJ's going to say that it's like a racist, vitriolic comment.
Tend for it to have racial undertones, right? Because intention here doesn't matter. I think
You didn't intend for it to have
You're
racial
evenly
undertones.
matched,
There's nothing about it
but
that has
one
racial
team
undertones.
must
you'd agree with me.
He specifically said the
It's
government of
it's the
Vietnam.
outcomes that matter. You don't think that that's the kind of thing that can stoke racially charged responses from people or
Well, sure, but-
encourage.
You can get that from criticizing China too, right? Like I hate China, but if
And
you
yeah,
talk
that's
about that
true.
long enough,
It's
folks
also
who are
true.
actually
That is a
racist
fact.
are going to catch on.
You
There's
can
only
talk
so
about
much
how
you
you
can do
hate
about
China
that.
without calling somebody a useless stepchild of China, for instance. You know, I mean, like,
If they
Oh,
were,
what the fuck
if they were a
say about
Chinese, if they were a Chinese
what does that even
nationalist,
mean, a useless stepchild of Vietnam? I don't really understand what you were trying to say there.
oh, I don't know. I
Move.
threw out probably like
They're not even
100
in
or
there.
200 insults. I don't even remember the one you're saying right now. I'm sure in
So yeah, the fact
context
that
it was
you don't
very
remember
funny.
what you said tells me you weren't being too careful when you talked about her as an individual. Like,
Enemy team
Well, I
maybe
can't
you forgot
remember
a little
every.
bit.
I can't remember every insult I deliver over a whole stream. I mean, that's hours every day I'd have to log. I don't have that much storage space in
Yeah,
my head.
I don't know. I think you could be careful. I think you could be more careful about how you talk about
Well, I
other
don't.
people. But
What you've said there.
And then I can't fucking
this is
move?
going
Are you
nowhere.
kidding
So,
me?
Well, I just
do you
want to
have
say
any thoughts
what you've said there. That
Why can I
doesn't
not
cross my
fucking
threshold
move?
for irresponsible treatment. I mean, obviously, and I'm not. This isn't an effort to poison the well. Obviously, you have a closer relationship with Luna than I do. That's kind of an
I
understatement.
do
think.
recognize that she's a person. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
part of being, you know.
Right. Well, we're going to have different perspectives on an acceptable level of vitriol towards people that you don't like. I guess the thing that always weirds me out a little bit is I'm very mean to conservatives on my channel. Nobody seems to mind that much. But then when there are people on the left who have ideas that I think are just as pernicious, you know, all of a sudden, people, you know, they get very up in arms about it. I don't understand the double standard personally. I think that it's.
I can't speak to that because I don't have enough insight into or optics into that. So
What do you think it's
just
okay
know-
if I was? I'm just asking because I just want to know if it's a broad opposition or if there's kind of like a specific favoritism here. If I was doing a video on like I don't know Ben Shapiro and I was just throwing them out there, you know, all the insults, nothing anti-Semitic or whatever, but you know, just
Wow,
insults.
really?
Do you think there's an issue with that vitriol, or do you think that's a fine thing
if
to
it's
do?
motivated by things like race and or being trans or whatever, then of course there's a problem. Even if, like, for instance, like, you know, like if there's if you're debating a conservative who was gay,
This dude just
And
doesn't
then
fucking miss.
you made some kind
What
of
a
comment
fucking
that could be
hack-ass.
construed as referencing their sexuality. I'm not saying you did that. I'm speaking hypothetically.
Oh, let me
And
hit
then
every
that person
shot,
got
man, to
harassed
get
for being
this
gay,
fucking
even if they're conservative. I
New
certainly wouldn't
Nerf
say that that's
fireball,
acceptable. You know what I'm saying? And I think that I'm saying you. I'm just saying the hypothetical you. That a person who did that would have to take responsibility for the role that they played in that. And
Oh,
I
hold
think
on.
that when you're
What?
putting out insults, you need to be thinking about the potential ripple effects that the words you use can have when you're talking
Yeah,
about
sure.
other people.
Well, I think the ripple effect is, I suppose I dislike her, and I'm okay with people in my audience.
There's no
disliking
fucking way
her,
he knew.
but
I didn't even take
if the
damage.
racial
How the
comments,
fuck did
like
he
the
know right where I
racism,
was?
is really coming from like the Groyper hate followers, I just don't think there's a
make
relationship
any
between
sense
the
to me.
language that I use, you know, this
I'm
language
so
at least, which is
confused.
I don't think racialized, and the outcomes.
feel my
Hold on,
fingers.
somebody linked the stepchild thing. I just want to hear. It's 6 seconds. 1 second. Yeah, the modern Vietnamese government has produced little fucking off stepchild bastard children like Luna Oi here. Yeah, the modern Vietnamese government has produced. Oh yeah, it's a comment on Vietnamese education producing like nationalist defenders. Yeah, so that would be like the stepchild comment.
What is the stepchild connection there?
Well, like
You know that she's 5 years older than you. I mean, I don't understand why you keep calling her a child. And
I don't understand why you keep calling her a child. Stepchildren are stepchildren regardless of their fucking age, EJ. But then again, he doesn't think at all.
seems kind of like overly demeaning. I don't know what basis you have for that.
I'm okay with being demeaning. With the stepchild
Okay.
thing, when I think of like, it was like the redheaded stepchild kind of thing, like the idea that like a, you know, like a bunch of like sort of children running around, you know, it's like 20 of them and you can remember the names of 16 or so. You know, I think it's a salient critique of the way governments will sort of indoctrinate their
Could you not have
constituents.
made that point? You know, knowing what you know and knowing and being conscious of the way that certain people that watch your show, could you just not have made that point with a little bit less personal vitriol? I guess I just don't understand the. I don't.
But I'm okay
I
with the
talk to people all the time that I don't like, but I don't make weird comments about them like that.
I'm
They
okay
could
with
be
the
construed-
vitriol. Also, to be fair, I'm pretty sure Luna's been.
Yeah, I'm actually okay with the level of vitriol that Vaush uses. I've been worse in terms of vitriolic, antagonistic, but they're just being crybabies. That's all it is.
Quite vitriolic to me for a while. Not to say it's not.
For months on end until you decide to do another stream about her. That's something I can tell you for sure.
Oh, sure. Not to say it's not
Go
mutual.
around talking about you all the time. It's always in self-defense. I mean, I have to say that I've been
Wait.
very keen on that.
I think there was at least one time she started something, but it doesn't matter. I'm not. This isn't like a who started it type thing. I'm just saying that I think the vitriol certainly is mutual. I don't see an issue with being vitriolic. It's fine. If anything, I'm working on maybe trying to be a little more vitriolic. I feel like the left online is way too much of a pass to certain types of ideas. Some types of nationalism.
Why do you think that is beneficial? I mean, what do you think that what end does that serve? I don't get it. I don't understand how calling somebody a useless stepchild of Vietnam serves any purpose.
Well, it was part of a broader bit on the nationalism thing, but anti-nationalism is a strong component.
Like if you said Luna's a rabid nationalist or something, then like that would have a connection to what you're saying. I don't understand it. I don't see this. I don't feel this conversation's going anywhere. I don't think that you're. I don't think you get what I'm saying. So
no, I understand what you're saying. You're saying that I was too mean. I just don't mind being mean.
It's not about me. I'm using the personal situation of Luna because I'm familiar with that. But there have been a number of people have come forward and said that after.
This is a common pattern with EJ as well. He's like, I don't think you're getting what I'm saying. Well, there's either two options. One, he is getting what you're saying and he's disagreeing with you, or two, you need to fucking learn how to say what you're actually trying to say. I have a problem with people misinterpreting what I say sometimes, and then I just think about how to explain it better. Instead of just saying the same fucking words over and over. Jesus, EJ. It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
You talked about them on stream, they got a lot of hate. And I'm just saying that if that were me and that were my audience and that were my platform, and somebody was saying that, I would take it very seriously and I would work very hard to do everything I could to decrease that as much as possible. No, you're saying that you want to go forward and be more vitriolic towards.
Well, the thing is,
we're talking
I think
about people of color, trans people, gay people, whatever. You're saying you want to be more vitriolic to people who you disagree with, who are marginalized, not less vitriolic.
The main thing is that I do take it seriously, and having taken it seriously, I've only found evidence to take it less seriously. Because this has happened before, this basic pattern, and I always have it investigated. I have mods, I have a team,
It is a pattern of behavior.
I have a crack team, and this always gets looked into. I can never find evidence of.
Just because it has happened before doesn't necessarily equate to a pattern of behavior, EJ. That is a huge fucking reach. And also kind of just smearing.
Real harassment. Either it's just people being mean to them, which again, I'm totally okay with. And I don't
what
think
do you consider, I mean, like, I don't know. What you don't think that if if a bunch of people are coming forward and it seems like a pattern of behavior, because you said it's a pattern of behavior, and you're having to investigate it all the time. I mean, I don't have this problem. I don't have to go out launching investigations with like a crack mod NSA team to go do like investigations, because I'm not constantly hearing from people that when I talk about them on stream that they're getting a bunch of harassment over race and gender and sexuality and that kind of thing. But that's what I'm hearing people say about your audience. So what's the? I don't know the difference between my.
Wait, hold on. Somebody just linked a tweet where Luna is essentially calling me a pedophile. I think I'm okay with the mean. I usually try to proportion it to my dislike.
Okay, now, here is where I'm a little bit mixed. Luna is essentially trying to paint him as a pedophile with this by promoting an out-of-context clip that starts in the middle of a sentence and ends before he finishes that same fucking thought. It's pretty much the same sentence. He doesn't even get to the however part. So it is promoting misinformation to paint him as a pedophile, but she doesn't call him a pedophile, and so it gives her some plausible deniability. That's all it is just plausible deniability. But, well, I didn't say you're a pedophile, I just promoted this misinformation. But EJ does have the only retort available, and it was probably crafted this way. Because she is talking about the platform, but also painting him as a pedophile, so both are true.
Like for people, I feel like
I know
Luna.
do you want to read the tweet and tell me exactly what it says?
Vaush gets kicked off of platforms for saying cracker, but not for saying pedophilia can be good for children. Sick fucking world.
Which is an exact quote that you said.
No, it's not.
You play the video that it's linked to. Tell me that it's not
The video cuts me off mid-sentence. It literally cuts me off in between.
You did say that, though. She referenced something you actually said.
It is possible.
Hold on.
You could defend yourself and say that was taken out of context or whatever, but she didn't call you a pedophile, and she was referencing something you actually said, which is a different situation than being vitriolic towards people for absolutely no reason.
So do you think that signal boosting misinformation with the intent of sort of painting a person as a pedophile isn't, like, it's interesting that you would take issue with saying a person's a stepchild of the country that they're from, but the idea of like signal boosting disingenuous far right pedo jacketing that was literally cut off mid-sentence isn't itself bad faith or disingenuous. Like, that's really weird to me. I don't understand. is it like a perceived vulnerability thing because my community
Well,
is
there is
large?
a power differential for one thing. That is true. But also, that's not the only thing. The other thing is, she wasn't just talking about you. She was talking about the way platforms work. I think that you would agree that getting kicked off for saying cracker was ridiculous, right? Do you agree with that?
I would
So
agree
there's,
that
like,
calling me a
going on.
pedophile is being vitriolic. I don't think there's any working around
She
that.
didn't call you a pedophile. She didn't call you
By proxy, she did. She didn't expressly state it.
a pedophile.
Non-compete. Come on.
She did it. She said that she thinks that what you said in that clip is worse than saying cracker.
I mean, if you cut together a bunch of words spliced from different streams and
All
arranged
right.
them in a way to implicate me, and then
Look.
looked at that and said, "Huh, look at that. That's
Would it
interesting."
make
That
you?
wouldn't technically
Would it
be
make
calling me.
you? I don't know what to say. I can just tell you that there's a difference between quoting what somebody actually said in a specific context when you're commenting on a platform versus calling
It's not
somebody
actually
a
quoting me,
useless stepchild
though.
of Vietnam,
It's not quoting
which is
me.
really just an insult based on the fact that she's Vietnamese. That's the only tangible piece of evidence about her identity that you addressed, or even you didn't address her positions. You addressed like you didn't call her a nationalist. You called her a stepchild of Vietnam.
In a
Yeah. A bastard stepchild of the Vietnamese government.
section
It's
where I was
motivated by the fact that she's
hold
Vietnamese.
on. This would be a lot easier for you if you didn't form your opinions based exclusively off the Twitter clips. In the whole video,
I
or you
don't
can
have an opinion about whether
you
or
can
not you're a
find
pedophile, Vaush.
the section.
I
No,
don't.
I'm talking about the stepchild thing. I have an opinion on whether or not I'm a pedophile, and it's that the people who go out of their way to call me one because they can't address my real arguments are bottom-feeding scum. And I really like the idea that
Okay,
you would
but she
complain.
did
Wait,
address
wait,
real
hold on,
arguments.
hold on. The idea that
All
people would complain about vitriol. I mean, not even about like the arguments used, right? But like in terms of vitriol. And what? Because I made a joke about her being a nationalist. Like, is stepchild like a slur now? This concerns me. I
Stepchild of
don't get it.
Vietnam. You did mention her nationality, which is
Who cares?
I don't know her
Yeah,
ethnicity.
I think she's a Vietnamese nationalist. Yes, stepchild of Vietnamese propagandizing education. Sure, yeah, it's fine. I don't even think that's particularly vitriolic. I'm pretty sure I said worse stuff.
All right, we're really just going around in circles now. So I don't know. I have nothing else to say about this. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I suppose
think
not.
Okay. Do you want to talk about anything else?
Yeah, apparently now stepchild is a fucking slur or some shit. I don't know. So dumb.
I have a few other questions. I
Yeah,
asked.
well, yeah, there were three topics that you mentioned. Hold on, I didn't have the email up. Well, you said the first one was on targeting marginalized people, and the second one was a perceived lack of understanding of Luna's video and of dialectical materialism, and then the third one was the dishonest rhetorical tricks I use in my discussions. And I'm happy to talk about either or both if you'd like.
Okay. So I think that
We're gonna watch that.
in your video, so specifically just focusing on the stream you had about Luna. Now, because you said that people don't address their opinions, your actual positions. I feel like you spent 2 hours. You call people who don't address your actual positions bottom feeding scum. You spent
And call
2
me
hours.
pedophiles. That's the part that
Okay,
bothers
well,
me the most.
categorically, Luna did not call you a pedophile. She quoted something that you said,
Wasn't
and
a quote.
I do happen to agree.
It's not a quote. It's an out of context clip. It can be shitty, but it's not a slur. Calling somebody a moron is a shitty thing to say. And it can be, but it's not a slur. Shitty thing to say does not equate to slur. The N-word is a slur.
Agree. I don't think there's any situation where an adult can have a sexual relationship with a child, and it has a positive outcome. So
If you had
we
actually
do
seen the
disagree.
full bit that was clipped from, then
I saw
you
the
would
full
agree. You saw the full bit, not just the Twitter bit, but the full thing in which I was.
Yeah,
And his eyes are flitting around because he's absolutely lying right now. He's like, yeah, I totally saw the full thing. Yeah, I saw it, the whole thing, not the Twitter bit that my wife posted. Like, no. EJ. Why don't you use that dialectical, materialistic, ethical system to recognize that you're being a shithead right now? Dialectical materialism isn't a ethical system. Dialectical materialism has nothing to do with ethics.
Your
constructing a
logical
rule of utility.
foundation was that there can be some situations where an adult and child can have positive outcomes. You didn't say. Anyway, it's
In-
totally
so
immaterial.
it's important. So in a consequentialist sense, you can easily construct a situation where essentially anything is fine. Here, I'll ask you. Just follow through with you 30 seconds.
No, I
then
don't.
we're done.
I'm not an idealist. I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals that don't have any bearing on material reality.
That is wait, hold on. Wait, hold
I'm
on.
not
Wait,
gonna
hold
do
on.
that. I'm
Wait.
not gonna
Mark,
talk
first of all,
hypotheticals with you, Josh.
we're not
about
talking.
hypothetical situations
Wait,
where adults can molest
We're-
children and they have a positive outcome.
you're the
Not
one
something
talking.
I'm
Wait,
Boom, and he dips. On that. Like, he's fucking trying to run away. He's like, oh, I'm not gonna talk about how you're a pedophile with you, and then, yeah, no. That's a shitty thing to say as well. He is smearing Vaush. He's essentially saying, I'm not gonna talk about pedophilia with you, and Vaush isn't even trying to talk about pedophilia. He's trying to run through a hypothetical. But non-compete is a slimy, weaselly little fuckwit who's also married to a slimy, weaselly little fuckwit.
Wait, hold on. First of all, Marx was a philosopher. It's not idealism. Wait, no, hold on. Wait, you can't move away from this. Okay, hold on. I'm not letting you paint me like this and then run the fuck away. Wait, hold on. Wait, you have to stop talking for 1 second, okay? Hold on. So imagine, all right? Imagine aliens come down to Earth and they say,
this is absolutely ridiculous, Vaush.
you've lasted 6 seconds so far,
Imagine
okay?
aliens. This is as hypothetical idealism as you.
That's not idealism. Any various systems of thought in which the objects of knowledge are held to be in some way dependent on the activity of mind. Hypotheticals aren't fucking idealism, alright? Alright, non-compete? You know what people say idealism actually is, though? I mean, you've got this one. The practice of forming or pursuing ideals, especially unrealistically. Wishful thinking, utopianism. You form or pursue an ideal, which everybody does, including you, buddy. So if you actually knew anything about the actual philosophy of idealism, instead of just throwing out terms that you've heard, you would recognize that you're sounding incredibly stupid. This is very dumb.
You can get. You're literally just like
You're like a honeymoon.
Camel, looking up definitions to show that I am not incorrect and that he is kind of just a tactic to be like, hey, look, he's very dumb. Look, here's the definition. You can literally I'm just showing you the definition. It's a way to show you the definition. Because there are people who watch me who don't know anything about philosophy. But they also don't pretend to know about philosophy. I don't know that much about philosophy. I'm not a philosophy major. I've seen some stuff on philosophy. I've looked up some things on philosophy, but I'm not a philosopher. But I apparently know more about philosophy than fucking EJ over here.
Moon virgin, you gotta last longer than 6 seconds. Just give me a second, okay? Did I not let you talk for a long time when you were establishing your premises? Come on.
I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals with
You don't have
It's
to.
not
You
something
don't. Then
really
you don't
talk
have to
about.
talk.
I
You
said I'm
just
not
have to
talking about
listen.
with you.
You just have to listen. Okay. Now you can imagine a situation in which aliens come down to Earth and they say, "We're going to blow up the whole planet unless you kill this innocent kid." Now, in a consequentialist sense, killing that innocent kid. Right.
And of course he can't follow through because he doesn't have the IQ to actually keep up with hypotheticals. He hears it and it's a very funny situation. Yeah, oh, aliens come to Earth. Yeah, but guess what? It's a hypothetical situation. Hell, you can change it even a little bit. Say you're walking down the street and a group of muggers pops up and says that you have to kill this innocent kid or they're going to slaughter everyone on the block. They've got bombs planted. They're just going to blow up the block. This is a group of people. Terrorist activity or whatever. There you go. There's a different hypothetical that falls into the same line. And not likely to happen in the real world, but can happen.
Right, I know, right? So follow through. Follow through. So in a consequentialist,
everything-
I know an inability to grasp philosophy is one of my biggest issues with Luna. It makes sense.
It's
that we would play both of
idealism.
you. That's
It's
not what I.
idealism.
This philosophy and idealism aren't the same thing. Those don't mean the same thing. You can
No,
Wikipedia them.
you're basing your
No, that is... Camel, I know you're very stupid, so this point probably won't get through to you. If you form an economic bloc with the countries that you're closely related to, under your own system, you can do this under a fucking socialist system. You can do this under anarcho-syndicalism. But you form an economic bloc where you produce things. Now, so that you don't get invaded, you have to be able to leverage that economic bloc. You also have to be strong enough not to be forced under the whims and wishes of the IMF and the World Bank. So when you form this economic bloc, what I had specifically said was if you form trade relations with a capitalist nation, you need to make sure that it is beneficial to you, not something that harms you, something that's beneficial to you. You fucking idiot. Oh my god.
Constructing hypothetical situations that have no bearing.
If you're likely to be invaded, as Syria and shit would be, because, you know, capitalist Western countries really don't give a fuck overall, you need to be able to leverage your economy in a way that they can't actually do it. Why do you think we don't mess with China? China, very strong economy. Russia, not so strong of an economy, but we have other reasons to be less. We're actually pretty harsh on them.
Hypotheticals aren't. Wait, do you think an idealism is when you construct a hypothetical? Do you think those mean the same thing? You're going to lecture me on dialectical
There's
materialism.
no point in having this discussion, is my point.
Can you answer that question? Do you think idealism means when you...
Wow.
You construct a hypothetical. Have you read
If you
Capital?
construct a
It's full of
hypothetical that
hypotheticals.
has nothing to do with reality, and
That's a fucking terrible thing, is that this conversation is pointless to have. No, it's actually very much something that you need to learn from, EJ. But you won't, because I know that after this, because Rojava is a way that they can, an area they can use to leverage against Assad, and they don't like Assad. Removing Assad, that's what's in it for them. And currently the oil. But the U.S. has other access to oil. Like we do. We can get it from Iraq if we need to, but we get oil from a lot of different places. It's pretty fucked up, honestly. We need to stop doing that and invest more in nuclear power plants and green energy, like renewable sources. Not, fossil fuels. Yeah, no, getting rid of Assad is probably the big one, because not all capitalist countries support Rojava. There are some that are actually against it, and the U.S. supports it because, yeah, it's a way to leverage against Assad, either to get him overthrown from within, or to bring him to the negotiating table and have some way to hold something over. Because he's destroying your fucking country? Okay. I mean, I knew you were dumb, but I mean, if you just want your country to be absolutely in ruin because of one dictatorial egomaniac, that's on you. I don't want that to happen to your country. So I hope Assad is willing to peacefully resign and hand over control of the country to somebody who is more willing to do good for the people there, because he's obviously fucking not.
you think that gets you closer to the truth. That is idealism, because you are making the ideal conscious processes of thought.
No. You're just putting words together at this point, EJ. Oh, idealism. How do I fit this? Ideal processes of thought is idealism. No. Even then, you're fucking wrong.
Your basis for truth.
Idealism is not when you...
My basis
I
for
see,
finding truth.
I see the issue. You think idealism is when you think, which is why you don't.
Boom. One of the biggest bombs dropped on him in this entire debate. And it's very funny. Because it's true.
Listen, if you read Das Kapital, okay, you'll actually find hypotheticals. They're actually kind of ubiquitous. Look, anyway, in that...
grounded in reality, though. They're grounded in actual things that happen.
So just let's finish the point. We can...
Well, see, here's the deal. If Assad comes to the negotiating table and works to form a regional government against with the Kurdish population in Rojava, the way that they actually want, then there won't be a power vacuum. That's the ideal situation. Because power vacuum doesn't actually benefit the U.S. that much in that region. There's already too much turmoil going on. And we've learned that trying to stabilize it ourselves is not the answer. We kind of just spent 20 fucking years in Afghanistan, and nobody in the U.S. wants to deal with that shit. So, we want Assad to negotiate to form a regional government that can actually kind of put some checks on him so he's not so fucking dictatorial. Except Iraq's not a puppet state. Fucking idiot. You absolute clown.
can move on if you let me talk for 10 seconds, okay? So in that situation, you could argue consequentially that the outcomes would be good to murder that innocent child because the Earth doesn't get blown up. Then, because the Twitter...
Like, it was openly admitted that they wanted, they didn't do much to fight back ISIS in that area, in Syria, because they wanted Assad to be, you know, forced to come to the negotiating table. That doesn't fucking matter. That doesn't matter. The regional government wouldn't just be Kurds. There are Arabs who want this as well. There are Assyrians and Syrians and everybody in that region that supports Rojava, which is apparently most of the people there, because they have better ideas. They have a better system. And it takes into account the will of those people. Unlike Assad, who just goes, nah, fuck you. It's an ethno-nationalist perspective that Assad has. And I dislike that. So the percentage of population that Kurds make up doesn't fucking matter. What kind of argument is that? That's actually kind of just a racist fucking argument. Because it's also Kurdish national resources, due to the way that the borders were cut up where Kurdish people already lived. Kurds have been there. Kurds inhabit the region. They work in the region. It's also theirs.
Bit cuts me off literally mid-sentence, you follow on from that point to talk about how a rural utilitarian could have a categorical opposition to the murder of children in spite of that. The whole argument was one against the predation of children.
They actually probably would. They'd put conditions on it if they had a say. Like, if Assad is gone, then they would much rather have something like what Rojava is wanting than something like what Assad currently has. Because at least what Rojava wants is democratic. I know it's kind of a buzzword for a lot of people when the US says bringing democracy to the Middle East, but at the same time, like, if it's done from people there, the people in Rojava, the people in Syria, and they form a democratic system, the way that France formed a democratic system for themselves, the way that the US formed a democratic system for themselves, not in the exact manner, but in the same kind of methods, then yeah, it's a different thing. They don't all come from Turkey, and they're also displaced.
But
Syria has accepted Kurdish people for a long fucking time, buddy. They lived there. They lived in the region. They lived in Turkey, they lived in Iraq, they live in Syria, they live in Jordan, they live in a lot of places. And they were displaced by colonialism, which I don't like. Now they're trying to fucking actually have a say because everywhere they go, literally everywhere, they're treated like shit. And there's historical precedence for what happens when you keep treating groups of people like shit. And you're seeing some of it play out now. And if you actually negotiate and take into their will into account of what's going on, then you'll have a better relationship, as opposed to constant animosity. But because you can't accept that, because you're a fucking idiot nationalist, an ethno-nationalist at that, yeah, they live in Iran as well. And again, this condemnation applies universally. We have historical precedences for these things. You can have better relations with them if you just stop being fucking ethno-nationalist shitheads. But I don't think that's possible for you, because you are way too close-minded. Yes, they are. Human rights organizations have accused the Syrian government of routinely discriminating and harassing Syrian Kurds. repression of Kurdish political and cultural rights in Syria, Human Rights Watch, persecution and discrimination against Kurdish citizens in Syria. Oh, what's that? Carnegie Endowment, Open Democracy, CNN, New York Times, USA Today, BBC, The Kurdish Project, learn about the Kurdish genocide. Wow! What do you know? Oh, what's this? I can just swap this out? 1979 Kurdish rebellion in Iran was an insurrection led by the DPI and Kamal in Iranian Kurdistan. I'm gonna call absolute bullshit, considering there's literally historical articles about how they're being treated like shit in Syria and how they were treated like shit in Iran and in Iraq and in Turkey. Massacres have periodically occurred against the Kurds since the establishment of the Republic of Turkey in 1923. Not just Human Rights Watch, Camel, you fucking idiot. Like, Jesus Christ. Oh, there's one source that I don't trust because I think... But you probably think they're run by Jewish people or some shit. Because you're a racist. You're an anti... You're literally... See, I know you lie to me about literally everything, so I don't trust you, Camel. Everything you have said to me is pretty much a fucking lie.
Far-right people like to clip me out of context because it's easier than debunking me. That's it. That was it.
Okay. All right. That is idealism, though.
That's not what idealism means.
It is. When you think that you can find any truth that brings you, like if you use a hypothetical that's...
See? This is what I mean, Camel. You absolutely refuse to accept that your country has ever done anything wrong in the history of it, of any of the shit that... Yes, you are a fucking racist. And you're a dipshit. You're a bigot. You hate Kurdish people. You hate Jewish people. You hate anyone who doesn't appear to be Syrian. Every single comment you make about other groups of people, every single one, is hateful. Or dismissive. Oh, Kurds are only 10% of the population. Well, guess what? Population by race, USA. Yeah, you fucking do. Every time you're in my chat, you say some dumb racist shit. Like this one. What does it matter if we oppress them, man? Kurds make up 10% of Syria's population. Because I was talking about their oppression and then you came out with Kurds only make up 10% of Syria's population. Black people only make up 13.4% of the US's population. Well, then maybe think about what the fuck you're saying. Like, I already do give you an unbelievable amount of charitability. They literally can. Black people have helped in the future of America since, you know, at least, well, since forever. Everything they've ever done has helped in the future of America. .4% of the population. No, I'm really not. I give you a lot of charitability. And I'm trying to line up every single thing, because when I'm talking about a thing, there is a delay between the stream and chat and shit. When I got to here, I had already passed on about Kurdish people being oppressed and had just started on a new topic. This popped up right around the time, right after you would have heard about that point. Now, if you're saying that they can't help in the future, well, that's still racist. Just because they're 10% doesn't mean shit. I just showed you, black people make up 13.4% of the U.S. population, and they are responsible for everything that is good in this country. Everything. Most things, I should say. Like, seriously. All the musical stylings popular in the U.S. came from black people. Culture, art, food. Everything. Like, the ability to make this fucking country an actual country is because of black people. Very unethically, but it's true. Yeah, see, as soon as something that inconveniences Syria, you don't care about the betterment of the people there. It's not betrayal. The Kurds were betrayed. They were told that Syria would accept them with open arms and treat them well, and then they were treated like shit. I pulled up multiple sources on Syria, so you're not going to divert this. They've been oppressed in Syria, they've been oppressed in Turkey, they've been oppressed in Iraq, they've been oppressed in Iran.
It's grounded in reality, then that's
not. This isn't what idealism means. This isn't. It's not. You don't know what that term means.
Well, what do you think idealism means?
So, do you mean idealism like in relationship to materialism in the dialectical sense, like dialectical idealism versus dialectical materialism? Because the Hegelian concept has nothing to do with the construction of hypotheticals.
No, it doesn't. But it does. But no, it does. It does. So yes, it does, because idealism is the position that the basis for finding truth, and this actually does move towards.
In the Cope stream, and in this, he says that Vaush is a sophist, and I wanted to find some. I found something very funny. Not sophisticated. A paid teacher of philosophy and rhetoric in ancient Greece, associated in popular thought with moral skepticism and specious reasoning. Now, he was meaning a person who reasons with clever but fallacious arguments, but Vaush doesn't use fallacies, he calls them out all the fucking time. And his audience is very good at pointing out a fallacy. So I'm going to say that he's a sophist in the sense of being a paid teacher of philosophy and rhetoric, not in ancient Greece. Can't just say that about literally everything. Literally anything that makes Syria look bad. And I hate to tell you this, it's not true. It's not. Assad is a bad dude. He's just bad. And you simping for him on your fucking knees every single time you drop into my chat is really fucking old. I've looked into this from multiple angles, multiple sources, and every single one of them that aren't Syrian fucking state sources show that Assad's a bad fucking dude. So fuck off, I'm doing something besides talking about fucking Syria.
Is what I wanted to talk to you about. So I'm fine with talking about this now, because I do think you misunderstand the difference between materialism and idealism, and I think you don't understand the relationship between Hegel and Marx and Engels, and I don't think that you understand the difference between historical materialism and dialectical materialism. So these are all things I did want to ask you about. So,
not true. He's actually previously already explained that he knows what dialectical materialism is. It's a lens of analysis to study society and its formation and perpetuations and evolutions based on the study of conflict in relation to class. Those who own the means of production and those who have to work with the means of production. And historical materialism Supporting resistance in Palestine and Lebanon is bad? No, Palestine has a right to resist. Palestine's been there for way longer than anyone else has been in an area, really. Pretty much. I mean, maybe Chinese ethnicities and shit living in China are older than those in Palestine, but not really. Fuck you, Camel, you got me off track. Oh, historical materialism is applying the dialectical materialist lens of analysis to history. They are pretty much interchangeably. You can Google it. They're pretty much interchangeable.
So Hegel's whole dialectic, and the problem that Marx and Engels had with Hegel, was that he sought truth on the basis of the ideal and consciousness. Okay, Marx and Engels broke with that, and they thought that the material world in objective sense data, empirical sense data, is the primary basis for truth. But they were not empiricists. They were not positivists, meaning they didn't think you could only find truth in sense data, in empirical data. Okay, do you agree with all of those things I just said, or do you know those things?
No, I don't think that's correct. I think that's simplified in some respects and incorrect in others.
All right. Well, just tell me what you think idealism is, Vaush.
The dialectical disagreement. So first of all, idealism is a philosophical tradition dating back millennia.
Yeah, it is. Dialectics is very, very old. Now, just to show you, dialectical idealism, as applied to social theory, may be provisionally defined as an attempt to explain the evolution of Western society through the use of dialectical forms which rely upon the presumed motive power of spiritual, mental, or ideal forces. Meanwhile, understood materialism as the opposite of idealism, which, yes, it does rely on empiricism. Any theory that treats matter as dependent on mind or spirit as capable of existing independently of matter. Dialectical materialism is pretty good. No, that's... No. No. What the fuck? No. Supporting Palestine, which the US actually does. They also support Israel. But they do want a two-state solution. It's kind of a weak support of Palestine. Like, they like superficially support Palestine. But no, if the Palestinians got liberation, it wouldn't have anything to do with Syria. Like, those two things are not connected the way you seem to think they are.
You refer to as ideal, like, I don't know, there are like 20 different kinds of idealism depending on what you're...
Yes, Camel, you are very brainwashed. You are extraordinarily fucking brainwashed. This is your brain, Camel. This is your brain. See? This is my brain. Yeah, did you hear anything I fucking said there? The US supports Palestine superficially. This is closer to your brain. With not so many wrinkles. See? See? And then there's my brain with all the wrinkles that let me learn things and absorb knowledge. This is your brain, Camel.
Pulling from. The juxtaposition usually posed against what Marx wrote was Hegelian dialectical idealism, which was the idea that social advancements, that ideas that human civilization was moved forward as a product of the antagonisms which arise in people's thoughts, as they have competing values and virtues which fight against each other, and you achieve synthesis, which is ideally an advancement of the idea, right, of the concept.
Okay, yes.
And Marx
Can I
is...
stop you for one moment?
Sure.
Can I stop you for one moment? Okay. So, an example of that, I think, and one of the big problems we have on the left today, and a problem that
The only thing you resist is actual liberation for oppressed people, Camel.
I've seen you have in your discussions, is that we have these hypothetical discussions about what we should do or shouldn't do, or after the revolution, will this happen or will this exist, and blah, blah, blah. And we construct hypothetical scenarios about the future, and then we think that that's what we should base all of our praxis and activism on. So in other words, we come up with the ideas first, which Engels described as utopianism, Marx and Engels described as utopianism, and then we think like, okay, we've got this perfect vision for where we want to be, now we have to get from here to there, and we have to dogmatically say that course. That would be, would you agree that that's an idealist basis for moving a movement forward, a political movement?
I think it's utopian, but I don't think it's a dialectically idealist concept. I think you could frame that belief system through dialectical materialism just fine.
Which is true. You could.
You could frame that system through dialectical materialism. Frame a utopian system, or what do you mean? I don't understand what you mean.
Yes. You could.
Dialectical materialism is only a mode of analysis. It's a theory to explain the movement, the evolution of human behavior, society, social developments. You know, you could apply it to anything. You can analyze any system, any society through the lens of dialectical materialism. It doesn't have to be. There isn't like a dialectically materialist way of doing a thing. You know, outside the process of analysis, you can't like make a civilization and go like, this time we'll do it dialectically materially.
The point is that you're putting the cart before the horse if you say this would be a perfect society, and you know, a priori, you will find out through praxis what works and what doesn't. That was a big important thing that Marx and Engels pointed out, was that you can only find truth through practice and praxis.
I'm not a utopian. I agree that it is dumb to conceptualize an ideal society and then
okay, so when you conceptualize things with aliens and things that don't happen on planet Earth.
Oh my god, yeah, I forgot. This is really fucking stupid. See, there's the thing. Other presidents have told us no. Other ones in the region. The Iranian president doesn't like us. Iran doesn't like America. You don't have to like us. You don't even have to, like, conform to what we want. But getting rid of Assad would be beneficial. I don't want people listening to what America wants them to do. I don't even want to listen to what America wants me to fucking do. Jesus Christ, Camel. But, yeah, it would be liberating the Kurds and the other people who have been oppressed and attacked by chemical weapons from Assad if Assad was no longer the leader of Syria. If there were actual, open, democratic elections where people weren't afraid of being fucking murdered for not voting for Assad, then yeah, it'd probably be a good thing and would be very liberating for you to make your own fucking choices.
Earth, that's a useless rhetorical strategy.
Oh my god, this is what you were running back to? No, okay.
Yes.
So, no. Let me explain.
Now, for me, preferably, you would work together with the Rojava project to destroy the state apparatus that actually does oppress you, and use mutual aid networks and a gift economy, and maybe form a anarcho-syndicalist society overall, and that would actually probably be the most liberating for you.
Please listen, this can be instructive, okay? There is a massive difference between framing your pragmatic advocacy for a political system based on a utopian vision of a future that you don't have material conditions to account for, and the construction of a hypothetical.
Well, the current conflict is kind of centered around the Kurds. That's kind of what the Rojava project is about. Like, buddy, come on now. If they get their regional government, that fixes things. They get favorable terms, something that they can accept, and it's upheld. Boom. That fixes it. Right there. Or you could go full anarchist and take down the state apparatus. I don't know what you're saying what to. Nothing I said there is very confusing if you know anything.
Illustrate the dynamics of a moral system. If you read Capital, I promise
Okay,
you,
moral
you will
system.
find
Boom.
hypotheticals that are very
Concept.
outlandish.
Hold on. Your whole thing, you believe that you can construct a moral system where you can,
I didn't construct it. It's just rule utilitarianism.
You can't. The material conditions determine what is morally acceptable and what's not. When the French resistance.
What is actually acceptable? What? Material conditions dictate what is acceptable. It's not thieves, they control the area. You stole their liberties. You're the real thieves. But No, material conditions don't dictate what is moral. This is where act utilitarianism is actually the philosophy, because the conditions you're in, yes, the actual conditions you're in, does matter. Yeah, filling their pockets with American dollars and then, making sure all their people over there are taken care of, doing what they actually need to do. Fucking everybody recognizes Israel except for a few countries. It's easier than getting blown to shit. Like, honestly. They are using force and bad propaganda in Israel to just bully people. Like, I do not deny this. Benjamin Netanyahu was a blight on the planet. He's no longer prime minister. I'm hoping things start to change in Israel.
We're blowing up Nazis, that was okay because of the material conditions they were in. Right? Do you agree with that? But it's not
What?
always okay to just go blow people up.
No,
Like, there are
those
certain
are
material conditions where it's acceptable and somewhere it's not.
Those have nothing to do with each other. No, I'm not a moral relativist. Wait, do you think slavery was moral because back then people thought it was moral?
That's exactly the opposite of what I'm saying.
The material
I'm saying that
conditions of
it's justified
16th
for
century
slaves.
agriculture demanded the existence of slavery. Do you think that's moral then? Like, what?
That's my point. Is that it has? I believe my morality stems from dialectical. Like, so let me put it this way.
But
Material
dialectical
conditions-
materialism isn't a moral system. It's just an analysis of history. Those
They're-
aren't.
okay.
These are
Why
the
do you
people who
think-
criticize my
No, no, no,
philosophy.
no. Here's where you're wrong, because you are conflating empiricism and positivism and determinism with dialectical materialism.
No, that's
So
what
one of
Luna
the
was
important
doing.
things that Marx and Engels pointed out, Vaush, is that through conscious activity, we can impact the material world and we can make changes. And so, for instance, people can liberate themselves by developing massive movements, but they have to develop them with an understanding of the.
Camel? Rojava recognizes Palestine, and they were one of the first countries or regions to allow a general consulate with and have meetings with Palestinian representatives. And the only reason they have any support for Israel is Israel recognized the Kurdish movement in Iraq. Just because I don't know everything about the conflicts and the intricacies and shit over there doesn't mean I can't learn real quick, buddy. My brain isn't as smooth as yours.
The material processes of reality.
Nobody gives a shit.
If you try
where
to
it was
develop, so for
founded,
instance, of
Camel.
course,
That's fucking irrelevant.
all poor people don't want to be.
Also, what EJ's talking about is fucking stupid. Anyways, no, material conditions do not dictate what is moral. There's generally a rule about what is immoral. See, he had a pretty good description there.
Because you are conflating empiricism and by developing massive movements, but they have to develop them with an understanding of the material processes of reality. If you try to develop, so for instance, of course, all poor people don't want to be poor anymore, right?
Wait.
Opposite of what I'm saying.
The material
I'm saying
conditions
that
of
it's justified
16th
for-
century utilitarianism.
You can't. The material conditions determine what is morally acceptable and what's not. When the French
What?
resistance were blowing up Nazis, that was okay because of the material conditions they were in.
What?
Right? Do you agree with that? But it's not always
What?
okay to just go blow people up.
There you go. He's being very stupid and misapplying the terms dialectical materialism and rule utilitarianism. The rule is it's not okay to blow people up. The conditions in which that rule can be broken are there are people trying to occupy the country you are in by force with genocidal intent for no actual good reason, but to round up people of a certain ethnic grouping and kill them. Camel, you're fucking stupid. Just shut the fuck up, buddy. You're so dumb. So yeah, the conditions to break the rule of not blowing people up, not shooting people, is essentially When people come into your area to cause you harm and to cause a genocide. Like, Nazis are bad, so they got to be shot. There's exceptions to rules. Every time. Rule utilitarianism has a rule that generally needs to be followed.
No,
Like,
those are
what's acceptable and some words not.
those have nothing to do with each other. No, I'm not a moral relativist. Wait, do you think slavery was moral because back then people thought it was moral?
And using EJ's material conditions ethics, he would actually have to say yes if he was being ethically consistent. But he doesn't have any idea what he's fucking talking about. Like, this is absurd. I know about rule utilitarianism and act utilitarianism. I mean, I'd say I don't know a whole lot about philosophy, but I've looked into certain forms of philosophical thought. Hell, I was doing some of them earlier. Like, before stream, because I like it. Do you actually know what I'm talking about, Camel? An ethical system has nothing to do with a hierarchical system. Oh my god. Oh my god. Camel. Do you realize how absolutely fucking brain dead that statement is? In relation to what I've been saying? Do you actually know? Because I want to know. If you have any clue what the fuck you're talking about. Oh my god. It doesn't sound like you do. It does not seem like you do. Anyways, back to this.
That's exactly the opposite of what I'm saying.
The material
I'm saying that
conditions of
justified
16th
for
century
slaves.
agriculture demanded the existence of slavery. Do you think that's moral then? Like, what?
That's my point. Is that it has? I believe my morality stems from dialectical. Like, so let me put it this way.
But
Material
dialectical
conditions-
materialism isn't a moral system.
Yes. Yes, we do. Both philosophically and physically. We come from two different schools, I'm sure. Yours is whatever the fuck fascistic nationalist bullshit you're spoon-fed by the government. And mine is, well, I align more with rule utilitarianism, a little bit of hedonism, anarchistic principles. So, whatever.
It's just an analysis of history. Those are
okay.
These are
Why
the
do you
people who
think-
criticize my
No, no, no,
philosophy.
no. Here's where you're wrong, because you are conflating empiricism and positivism and determinism with dialectical materialism.
No, he's really not. He's not conflating any of those things. He accurately explained what dialectical materialism is. And they've been using dialectical materialism to mean positivism, empiricism, ethical fucking systems. But Vaush is the one who's conflating all these things. No, that's pure projection and cope on your end, EJ. You're really fucking dumb. But then again, you already said that thinking is idealism, so you don't, like, that just shows you don't do it. No. I said fascistic ideology spoon-fed to you. Fascistic nationalism. It leans towards fascism and is hyper-nationalistic.
No, that's
But
what
one
Luna
of the
was doing.
important things that Marx and Engels.
That, and you keep saying a lot of really fucking weird fascistic shit. So, I mean, I haven't completely written it off there, buddy.
Pointed out, Vaush, is that through conscious activity, we can impact the material world and we can make changes. And so, for instance, people can liberate themselves by developing mass movements, but they have to develop them with a
Dialectical materialism is amoral. Yep. No Nothing TV. You're gonna have a field day on Twitter. Vaush, this chain of thought leads to the state is okay because it fights for the future of communism. Vaush needs to read theory.
An understanding of the material processes of reality. If you try to develop, so for instance, of course, all poor people don't want to be poor anymore, right? But like, if you have false consciousness and you don't have a firm grasp on how material processes work and how the world actually develops and how things can develop and how applying your consciousness to material, of course, all poor people don't want to be poor anymore, right? But like, if you have false consciousness and you don't have a firm grasp on how material processes work and how the world actually develops and how things can develop and how
Dialectical materialism is an epistemic system, pretty sure. Anarcho-Pop-Tart says Vaush, you're mixing up dialectical materialism and historical materialism, which he technically is, but they're interchangeable pretty fucking easily. Literally using epistemological theory for ethics. I think that road beer EJ drank. Wow, okay, no.
applying your consciousness to material.
This man was instrumental in my development as an anarchist, but like how? I never came across NonCompete. This is just a long-winded I am rubber, you are glue.
Conditions will develop reality. If you don't have that, and you will fail and fail and fail again. That's why Engels and Marx wrote Socialism, Utopian, and Scientific, because they wanted to stop the...
Oh. The cat. Oh, Artemy. Yeah. Artemy's a fascist. This man is a fucking moron. Consciousness is part of the material world as far as we can tell. Of course it can affect it. True.
Remember, they were...
I'm sure that's actually debated. So, I'm not going to say true to that for real, but, you know.
Organizers, they were activists. They were actually going out. They were members of groups. They were doing things, you know, and they had praxis. And they were so tired of having hypothetical conversations with people.
There's a difference between opposition to constructing a hypothetical entirely and opposition to the idea of basing one's entire
Vaush hold frame challenge 99% will fail. He did. He just held frame. Engels wasn't much of a radical reviewer taking notes.
political advocacy off of hypotheticals and nothing else. But that's because pragmatic advocacy for a political system and ethical systems are two different things. Hypotheticals are the only things that you can really use to construct a normative ethical system, because you have to isolate. Because first of all,
where are you getting this information from? Or is this something you just came up with, or what is this? What are you talking about?
That's literally what ethical systems were derived from. If you read any writings, there's shitloads of fucking weird-ass hypotheticals in there to try and fine-tune what is and isn't okay, what is and isn't moral. Like, what the fuck, EJ? Oh my god.
Well,
okay, if you're constructing an ethical system, like, or I guess learning to understand one.
Wait, what's an ethical system? What's a moral system?
A normative process by which you determine whether an action or a person is good or bad. In my case, an action, because I'm not a virtue ethicist.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you think that you can...
Okay. Oh, this is his what's a tiff moment. Oh my god. I think non-compete is confusing No, he's just dodging. Okay, here's the deal. Alright, he used a hypothetical earlier. He literally has already used a hypothetical, but because Vaush's was a little bit more outlandish, he's like, hypotheticals are idealism. You're conflating all these terms. Because he's an idiot. I mean, it really is just a lot easier to just say you don't like Vaush and you think he's a stupid poopy head and to move on than to get into this bullshit and expose how little you actually know. This was really bad for you, non-compete. If this had been decent, I might have checked you out. I looked at Hakim's videos. Some of them are okay. Some of them are dog shit. That's just the way it is with some MLs. But you used to be an anarchist. How the fuck were you instrumental in the development? Because I've heard your name before. How are you instrumental in the development of a lot of people's anarchist movement when you're this dumb? Did you just read Marxist-Leninist theory and it sapped the knowledge out of your brain? Like, Jesus fuck, I'm glad I read that shit before I moved on to actual anarchist theory, to actual leftist theory.
Can make one moral system that applies in all conditions, or like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
really...
Yeah, kinda. That's what ethical systems do. they apply to like pretty much every circumstance. That's why you get all the crazy hypotheticals. Like, I didn't even study that much philosophy, but wow.
The goal would be to construct a normative ethical system that's universally applicable. It is a constant
That's
subject of debate in philosophy.
That's idealism.
That is not idealism.
say
That's
that
not,
material
no, that's not what idealism means.
It's not. We looked it up. That is not what idealism means. Non-compete is just, he's a weaselly fuck.
Is because you're saying that you can hypothetically construct. You're saying that like if you sat down and thought hard enough, you had a big enough piece of paper and you wrote down enough if-then Boolean logic statements, you could construct exactly what is morally correct in any given situation in your mind.
Well, the difficulty usually isn't whether something is good or bad. It's whether or not we can assemble all the necessary information to determine whether or not it's good or bad. Like, hypotheticals are the easy isolating factor.
That's what Marx and Engels, that was their big breakthrough. That's what made them, they synthesized empiricism and positivism of people like Hume and Ricardo and Smith and the idealism of Hegel. And they realized that there's actually this dialectical relationship between material reality, material conditions, and human consciousness.
This is true. That last sentence is. It'll be a lot better if we do take over. No, I'm not an anarcho-primitivist. Oh, you're just fucking stupid and don't know anything about anarchy. Okay. We wouldn't need an economic bloc with Canada. Here. Anarcho-syndicalism is a political philosophy and anarchist school of thought that views revolutionary industrial unionism, or syndicalism, as a method for workers in capitalist society to gain control of an economy and thus control influence in broader society. The end goal of syndicalism is to abolish the wage system, regarding it as wage slavery. Anarcho-syndicalist theory, therefore, generally focuses on the labor movement. The basic principles of anarcho-syndicalism are solidarity, direct action, action undertaken without the intervention of third parties such as politicians, bureaucrats, and arbitrators, and direct democracy or worker self-management. Go. So you're throwing out every actual good economic practice and the one bad one we currently live under for what? What do you want? Feudalism? Fascism? There's really not that many other options. What's your economic system there, buddy? Anarchism is an actual societal effort, not just an economic system, so communism is definitely not a sickness. Anarchism is based. Communism is pretty good. Capitalism is cringe. And so are you. You fucking loser. You absolute clown.
That's not a matter of ethics. If we're talking about ethics, you need hypotheticals because they allow you to isolate conditions that you can use to determine the frameworks of your system. If you're only using practical examples for an ethical consideration, then you're post-hocking everything that happens. You're like, well, was that train crash bad? And you're like, well, I don't have a system for this. And you're like working through it. Dialectical materialism is just like this. Dialectical materialism is a system devised to allow us to analyze the world and to provide us a framework for understanding. That's what an ethical...
Marx and Engels, Socialism, Utopian and Scientific, wrote, the final causes of all social changes and political revolutions are...
You're gonna have to type out exactly what you mean by a semi-socialist system, because to me that just sounds like being moderately capitalist and doing social democracy, which isn't really that much better.
to be sought not in men's brains, but in men's better insights into eternal truth and justice. Not in men's better insights into eternal truth and justice, but in changes in the modes of production and exchange. They very specifically
That's not
said
an ethical.
we can't just sit around and think about what's best. We have to go out and apply things in the material world.
That has
and find
nothing
out
to
what-
do with
what's
that. Okay, you realize that Marx had a doctorate, right? Like, clearly sitting and thinking is part of the process. I think it's okay to sit down and read out a few hypotheticals to learn an ethical system. Like would you like say this to some kid in kindergarten? Like, you know, action is what we need. Like yes, it's okay to do hypotheticals. It's okay to learn ethical systems. And by the way, rural utilitarianism is really applicable with socialism. It is incredibly naturally, almost intuitively, in line with the moral assertions a person might make to argue in favor of socialism.
Marx and Engels did not just sit around thinking, okay, like in their brains.
We're not
First of
talking
all,
about
they
just
were
sitting
acting.
around. Wait, are
Second
you
of
against
all,
the concept
they
of philosophy?
You have to base your analysis on objective data, and there are two sources of objective data. There's the material world, and then there are objective social relations. That's the way Marx and Engels put it, anyway.
Okay, let me test your intuitive system then. Okay, let's hit it then. Is it
All right, now here's the best part. He straight up says, "Let's test your moral system."
wrong to hit a person?
It absolutely depends on the material conditions and the situation and the objective social relations at play.
Already, you're putting way too much fucking stupid ass thought into this. No, the answer is yes. It's wrong to hit a person.
There's no universal
Social
answer to that question.
relations. Okay, I agree. So one might
No,
say
no,
that
No, there is kind of a universal rule. It's kind of wrong to hit people, but there's ways that that rule can be broken.
Social relations, do I need to define that term?
circumstances matter. Yeah, okay, so I agree with that. So let's say, okay, let's use an example.
And yeah, okay, circumstances, not material conditions. Different fucking things. See, you notice how he says, you know, oh, Vaush, you're That won't work again, I promise you. So he's like, Vaush, you're conflating dialectical materialism with all these other things. And then he's sitting there conflating material conditions and circumstances.
Where all of the cases are known. You said that I was too vitriolic to Luna. Why is that bad?
I said that you need to look at the evidence that is being presented to you and
And I
consider
have.
whether you think it's bad or not.
And I
I'm
have.
asking you to apply this kind of analysis to your own platform.
Well, I've done that, but you clearly think it was bad because otherwise you wouldn't take issue with it enough to talk to me about it. You
I
think
think
I've
it's bad
acted in error.
because I saw evidence, which is that after you talked about her, not just once, but every time you've done a stream about her, I saw a huge uptick in people throwing racist, vitriolic shit at her.
Why is that
She
bad?
doesn't usually receive on that scale. That's the evidence I presented to you.
Okay, why is
I
that
was
bad?
convinced by that. Excuse me?
Why is that bad?
Why is that bad?
Yes, like he said, I'm going to test your moral system. So he's asking him questions. Why do you think these things are bad?
Why is that bad? Because a human being suffered as a direct result of actions that you performed.
Do you think that human suffering is always bad? What about when we shot Nazis?
I don't think that Luna. If you think that Luna deserves to suffer, do you think Luna deserves to suffer? Is that your point here? By being
wait.
attacked by racists? Is that
You're
what you're
the one.
saying?
You're the one who said that it was bad because a person suffered. So logically, I extend from that. You think when suffering
Yes.
happens.
Are you denying that it's bad that Luna suffered because racists sent racist vitriol at her?
I'm asking you your
Is that your
positions.
bad?
Why was it
I'm asking you your position, and see, he even reinforces it.
bad?
I would say it's definitely bad because
Why?
it's promoting the racist system.
He's not getting it. Oh my god, this is gonna get geek clipped 100%. Yeah. He is incapable of abstracting this in any way.
Of white supremacism, which oppresses billions of people around the planet.
Why is that bad?
It is bad because we should seek to liberate all of humanity from oppression.
Why?
So the main point of Marx and Engels is to
This is amazing. We will never get to axioms from here. They were trying to say it's racist without saying it. Okay.
you realize that the main point of dialectical materialism and historical materialism is to free humanity from all class antagonisms so that we can finally begin writing history ourselves. That's basically the way that they put it.
Why did
So
they think that was
once-
worth doing?
EJ, your dialectical materialist ethical system doesn't seem to be fucking working here for you, bruh. You can't explain shit. You can't explain why anything's wrong.
Because throughout modern history, throughout history since class antagonisms arose, let's put it that way, human beings have been driven forward by oppressive relations with the means of production, and that limits humans and it causes a lot of suffering.
I don't
And
understand these terms. You already said suffering can be good or bad. Limiting? What makes these things bad? I don't understand.
Okay, limiting oppression, giving people the ability to develop their own material conditions and to have the freedom to do what they want. That's what they talked about in
Why should people
socialism,
have freedom?
scientific.
Should people have freedom to murder?
Vaush, freedom to live.
It would be nice to have an ethical system you could apply to answer these questions.
Yeah, it would be nice to have an ethical system to apply to be able to answer these questions. No. EJ's just dumb and is getting absolutely destroyed here. I have yet to see an actual intelligent person who has analyzed this have anything to say positive about EJ. There's been some criticisms of Vaush that I have to look over, and I agree with some of them. Like, this here is just bad optics, but what the fuck ever.
Questions, right?
No, okay. A person has the right. This is okay. Let's go back to the material conditions, all right? If you're being oppressed, right? If you're being oppressed and somebody is forcing you to work for them as a slave or a wage earner or whatever, that is a form of exploitation, okay?
Isn't that their
What is
freedom?
bad? Excuse me?
Isn't that their freedom? You're talking about
Isn't
restricting
that
the freedom
their
of people to do unto others what they will.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You're saying that you don't like it when people exercise their freedom to oppress others. You said you value
Okay.
freedom.
Vaush.
Mhm.
Listen, the fact of the matter is that Marx and Engels believed that exploitation through class antagonism is not good.
No, that's completely irrelevant. That's completely irrelevant to your ethical I don't think he understands. He just doesn't understand. He's not connecting it. He's not connecting the I'm going to test your ethical system, which he agreed to. And all these questions afterwards are that.
Do you agree or disagree with that?
We're talking about what I agree. I think I'm a Marxist, at least in some respects. But I have an ethical system that informs the reasons why I feel Marxism is worth following.
And what is that?
Rule utilitarianism. Or I guess some people say you can fold that into act utilitarianism. So let's just say utilitarianism. Fine.
But but there's no.
This isn't a matter of idealism. It's a matter of understanding why we fight for what we fight for. What you're arguing for is intuitive morality, which is exactly what leads to every goddamn pogrom and mass slaughter that's ever happened throughout history. When people post hoc justify what's right or wrong, only the construction of and adherence to moral systems that you can understand can prevent that kind of stuff from happening. And it's why I'm hammering on it right now. I don't like it when you're laughing like, oh, hypotheticals, oh, thinking.
Material conditions will dictate what's acceptable or not. If and the only way to we have to
No, material conditions definitely do not dictate what is acceptable.
Like, why are you against the concept? Do you think you're smarter than like all of like ethics, like the whole philosophy? Like that's like the most complicated.
So okay, if you are, I don't know how to explain this to you. Like you have to look at history, right? That's one way. That's one way to look at it. So whenever people have been enslaved, if they rise up and use violence to liberate themselves, then that is probably acceptable because they had material conditions in which violence was being. Okay, so
the Nazis.
Rising up against the Nazis was acceptable, yes.
No. After World War I, the Nazis claimed that Jewish bankers were holding the country down through.
And that was false consciousness because that wasn't actually.
And that was false consciousness, which, I mean, yeah, it was pretty false. But this doesn't explain anything morally. Like, Jesus Christ, non-compete. This is supposed to be about your ethical system, and you can't explain
anything happening.
How can you
tell? That
tell?
Was false consciousness. They constructed a moral utilitarian rule that did not align with reality.
They were not
No, they were moral intuitivists.
Wait, the Nazis were not utilitarian. Careful with that. They were very, very not utilitarian.
The point is that their ideology was not aligned with reality.
How can you tell?
Because Jews don't actually control banks in the world.
There was a disproportionate number of Jewish control of banks in Germany during the Weimar Republic.
All right, Vaush, we're done here.
Which is actually true if you look it up. The Holocaust Memorial actually recognizes this. It's part of Jewish history. You have to understand the actual reasons why, and it's because Jewish people didn't have a ban on usury like Catholics did. because it's an extreme. If you're testing somebody's frameworks and everything, you bring up extreme arguments, and Nazis are pretty fucking extreme. Like, that's most of it. It's to be inflammatory. Like, come on.
Thank you. Goodbye. This is that's all I need to hear.
You don't have an ethical. Oh my god.
This. Can't believe you don't know what these words mean. All right. So yeah, that was very bad.
Hi, I'm EJ. This is NonCompete, and this is going to be a bit of a Frankenstein video. I'm cutting it together over a couple of days here. It's going to be rough. Bear with me. But this is a response video to a stream that Vaush did a few days ago, attacking one of my wife's comrades, stream partners' videos. I'm talking about Luna of Luna Oi, and she has a video series on dialectical materialism. Vaush did a 2-hour stream going through the video, and I found it to be very disappointing. So that is.
That's because you don't understand it. As we've already established, you actually don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. Your wife doesn't understand what the fuck she's talking about.
What this video is about. I know a lot of you are going to be upset that I'm making this video. There are going to be people watching this who are big fans of Vaush, who are going to be inclined to side with Vaush from the beginning. I hope that you will watch this all the way through and hear me out, because I really want you to see the things that I'm about to point out about Vaush and his rhetorical strategy. But I also know that there are people who hate Vaush, who will
I have already seen this video, by the way.
be watching this, and they would rather me just completely ignore things like this. But the fact is that tens of thousands of people have seen that video, and I think that a lot of them were deceived and fooled by the tactics and the rhetorical trickery that I'm going to point out in this video. So I hope that you will watch this in good faith. Let's get started. The main reason I have not talked about Vaush in this kind of concrete, confrontational manner, head on, is sincerely out of fear of retaliation from some of the very toxic elements of Vaush's audience, but also because I don't like
Yes, the very toxic elements who will call you stupid for being wrong on things. Ooh. Well, guess what? I consider myself somebody who, I follow Vaush. I have interacted with Vaush. Not like on stream or anything, but... yeah, I'm gonna be actually very mean to you, because you're very fucking
talking
stupid.
about individual personalities that much. I try to avoid it because
But nothing, there's no... you're white, so... Whatever. Calling you a cracker doesn't fucking matter. But calling you a massive fucking beta
Your ghost
does.
has limited
think
power.
that the drama and
Survive at
the
all
personal
costs.
conflict gets in the way of
kinda.
discovering
He's
truth,
very,
especially with personalities like this.
EJ
where
is
there
very,
just, a cultivated maelstrom of
weak.
controversy. I don't even video, and I know that this is going to be very controversial with my audience. A lot of people are going to come not engaged. A lot of people are going to
Forgets
ignore this.
everything
But now I'm going to tell you why I am actually deciding to make this video. I think it's a huge problem.
by
I
being
think
an
that
anarchist,
the
by moving
methodologies,
to an
if you want to call them that,
authoritarian ideology.
the lens through which Vaush sees the world, the methodologies which Vaush applies to what could be considered his analogy is counterproductive. I think it's harmful, and it really worries me that so many people are falling for what I see as sophistry. What is sophistry? It's basically a word that refers to rhetorical strategies which are deceptive and in which the main focus is on winning, dominating, and there's really no emphasis on actually discovering truth. So it's basically just the strategy of doing what it takes to win in rhetoric. And I think that that's what Vaush does best. One of the most famous sophists of all time was Stephen Douglas, who famously debated Abraham Lincoln in the Lincoln-Douglas debates. If you've ever done debate in high school or whatever, you probably are familiar with that. And somebody wrote a description of Douglas, and they said, I think this is a really great description of Vaush, actually.
I win.
He, Douglas, / Vaush, was everywhere known as a debater of singular skill. His mind was fertile in resources. He was a master of logic. No man pursued more quickly than...
Now, calling him a sophist, that's just blatantly
You have a lead.
false. And then you found out that he's not a sophist. But then you continue in your cope stream afterwards with fucking a whole slew of other dipshits like Professor Flowers.
3 lives left. Last
Fuck.
life. This is it.
That was bad. And this one dude, I can't remember his fucking name, but he was very dumb and very cringy. Oh, EJ, can you make my screen all big so that I can deliver this point? I want to look all menacing. couldn't even see.
And he the strength or the weakness of an argument, and no one excelled him in the use of sophistry and fallacy. Where he could not elucidate a point to his own advantage, he was baiting these clouds for his opponent. In that particular style of debate, which in its intensity resembled a physical contest, he had no equal. He spoke with extraordinary readiness. There was no halting in his phrase. He used good English, terse, vigorous, pointed. He was utterly destitute of humor and had slight appreciation of wit. Okay, that's not really Vaush's bag. Vaush has a little wit, I'll grant you that. He never cited historical precedents except from the domain of American
Vaush is
politics.
very funny.
Inside that field, his knowledge was comprehensive.
He is a very funny man, I'll give him that. Jesus.
Enemy team has no
Minute,
reserves
critical.
left.
Beyond it, his learning was limited. Sound like someone familiar? He was not a reader. His recreations were not in literature. In the whole range of his voluminous speaking, it would be difficult to find either a line of poetry or a classical allusion. But he was by nature an orator, and by long practice a debater. He could lead a crowd almost irresistibly to his own conclusions. He could, if he wished, incite a mob to desperate deeds. He was, in short, an able, audacious, almost unconquerable opponent in public discussion. But I don't think that sophistry is good for the left. I don't think that we just need to be trying to focus on winning debates on the internet, even with right-wingers. I think we need to be focused on discovering truth and aligning our ideology, right, our thoughts and our ideas with reality. To me, that
Round start. You're ahead.
That's very dumb. You actually need to debate people sometimes. See, I'm not much of a debater. My rhetorical skills aren't on par for what I want to have for debating. I'm argumentative, but not good necessarily. I need to work on that before I actually do some debates. But debate is very important. It's not useless. It's not about sophistry. It's not about, oh, winning the way that so many people seem to think. Sometimes it is. Some people treat it that way. That's called bad debate.
Enemy team is out of lives.
So keep that in mind, friends.
that is the main focus of political activity. This, to me, is one of the core reasons why dialectical materialism
Sometimes Vaush
is
uses
such an important framework for my work. This stream that Vaush did, it's really remarkable. It's a remarkable document of the ways in which Vaush uses dishonesty, rhetorical trickery, and a lot of bullshit to kind of fool his viewers into thinking he knows shit when he doesn't. And believe me, I've seen enough Vaush's stuff now that I know that this is not an isolated example. I also know that Vaush's more energetic fans love to talk about not showing context. I'm not going to obviously play the whole 2-hour video, but I will show the timestamp for every point we talk about. And I'm going to try to show, the beginning, middle, and end of each point that I'm responding to. But if you feel like I've left context out, the time code is there. You can go look it up for yourself. If you want to watch the whole stream of Vaush's, go ahead. Vaush does this stuff regularly. It's a pattern of behavior. I don't believe that Vaush is actually interested in seeking truth. I don't think that Vaush engages with people like Luna or the other people on the left that he has attacked to truly discover truth. He's there to win arguments in a performative manner to get clicks and views and money. Which, I mean, and that's the other thing. Like, he's huge, okay? Being huge and having a huge audience doesn't mean you're right. Popularity is not criterion for correctness, right? If that were true, then Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder would be much more correct than Vaush because they have much bigger audiences. So you can kind of tell when somebody is a sophist by looking at their worldview, right? Examining their worldview. Is it consistent? Is it coherent? Do they have clearly defined and established values? And do they have a clear, easy to identify perspective, right? Do they have a starting point where they see the world in a certain way? Do they have a philosophy that underlies everything that they say? You're looking for consistency and coherency and perspective. Sophists use eclecticism. Eclecticism is a hodgepodge philosophical framework in which you just grab points from wherever they're convenient to build your case. You can think of it as trying to build like a case from an a priori position. Meaning you start with a conclusion and then you backtrack and look for evidence to support the conclusion that you made at the beginning.
Like
the video that we're going to watch and check out today, the stream, is nothing if not an a priori conclusion. Vaush goes into the video trying to guess and predict what Luna's going to say, already having the confidence that Luna is wrong, even though he's read none of the source material Luna is draw from. In that 2-hour stream, it's the first time he's ever watched the video live. He goes into it cold. He hasn't even done the basic investigation of watching it.
All lives expended.
He doesn't watch videos
Victory.
off air usually. Like what? He's admitted this since like day one of his fucking platform. He's like, I don't watch videos without you guys. I go in cold just to tear them apart. He doesn't. That's not a manipulative trick. He goes in to show that he's got a big brain. Now, sometimes he fucks up. Actually, he frequently fucks up and will stop in the wrong part, but oh my god. It's not a dishonest, manipulative trick.
It offline first and getting a basic idea of what she's going to say. In fact, he's guessing what she's going to say throughout the stream, and his guesses are all wrong. So it just shows that he has done no investigation before he speaks. I don't think that Vaush's worldview is coherent at all. Vaush is attacking concepts in Luna's video that he's unfamiliar with, and it's very obvious, and I will show you. He's stretching and manipulating. So Luna's coming at this with a very concrete framework, the framework of dialectical materialism, which she understands.
No, she's not. She actually doesn't understand it because she conflates it all the time. And it shows that you don't understand it because you admitted that you spent 2 fucking days working on the videos with her.
Understands very, very well. I also understand it very
Doing translations. So, no, you don't. Neither of you understand dialectical materialism. You understand what the Vietnamese government has produced as what they claim is dialectical materialism. But then again, the Vietnamese state also says that if you go against the Communist Party's inherent right to lead the country, then you're wrong. So, come the fuck on.
Survival.
well. The reason I understand it very well is because I helped Luna over a year now. We've been researching, Luna's been translating, we've been editing, and I've been helping annotate a 300-page textbook, a translation of the Vietnamese curriculum on dialect material. None of these ideas are our own. We don't come up with any of them from whole cloth. This is a text that was written by several dozen Vietnamese experts. These are people that have PhDs on Marxism, Leninism, on dialectical materialism. They actually do know this very well. And very well cited. There will be a few times where I'm going to go back to the words of Marx and Engels and show the...
Yeah, he's just deferring to the state.
Show where those ideas and information comes from, because it's not just something that she's making up at the top of her head. Okay, now you can disagree with this stuff, whatever, but Vaush is not interested in the big picture, coherent framework about imperialism. Basically, Vaush's goal in watching Luna's video is to obfuscate, to distract from the points Luna's making, and I'll show you that again and again and again, and to derail the points that Luna very carefully constructs in, again, what is part one of a 3-part series, which isn't even really finished yet. So it's not like Luna is claiming to completely and exhaustively cover all points of dialectical materialism in this part one of this series, or even in the whole series. It's a basic introduction to dialectical materialism. There are concepts that Vaush clearly does not understand. You might say that I'm poisoning the well. I'm telling you that these are patterns to look for. If you really think that I'm poisoning the well, then go watch the whole stream and then come back and watch this if you have that much time. But I'm just trying to build a case here that these are the things that we're going to be looking for again and again. Sophistry, incoherence, eclecticism. Another big thing you see with Vaush a lot is solipsism. In his book Ethics and Progress, the Marxist philosopher and ethicist Howard Selsom introduces this idea of moral solipsism. This is basically the worldview which begins in one's own mind, and it's the viewpoint that basically you can just sit around and discover truth by thinking about things in your own mind, and that your essentially opinions and logical conclusions that you craft idealistically in your own mind is a solid foundation from which to build the worldview. I think that Vaush, in his rhetoric, in his analysis, is a moral solipsist. He doesn't want to go to the text. He doesn't want to go and look at the world. He wants to start with his own mind, sit around and think about stuff, come up with his idea of what's right, and then just blast it out and present it as though it's concrete fact. He's very confident in presenting things that he hasn't researched and hasn't experienced himself. When he talks about Vietnam, a country that Luna grew up in, he acts like he knows everything, when he clearly has a very, very shallow understanding of this country and its people and the lived experience. He's actually very disrespectful towards his
disposition comes
off
video,
and he's clearly not focusing on what he's saying. He's clearly half paying attention. He's looking at the chat as much as not really looking at Luna. What I would expect to see in a respectful and thoughtful analysis, I would expect somebody to be paying attention, to go into it in good faith, just basically trying to understand what is actually being said, and then after checking all that stuff out, then drawing conclusions. There's this concept which, the big, horrible, scary, tanky Mao came up with, but I don't care if you like Mao or not. The point is that it's a sound concept. I'm going to quote Mao now from his paper, Opposed Book Worship. He says, "You can't solve a problem? Well, get down and investigate the present facts and its past history. When you have investigated the problem thoroughly, you will know how to solve it. Conclusions invariably come after investigation and not before. Only a blockhead cudgels his brains on his own, or together with a group, find a solution or evolve an idea without making a team investigation. It must be stressed this cannot possibly lead to any effective solution or any good idea. In other words, it is bound to arrive at a wrong solution and a wrong idea." Now, Mao's ideas here are grounded solidly in the fundamental principles of dialectical materialism. In fact, Vaush copied this Vaush left series because we talked about seeking a comprehensive answer. That means exactly what we just read there. It means you go in and you investigate something very deeply before you draw conclusions. Judgments. Vaush doesn't do this. He jumps in, he's got a frequency notion in his head, he doesn't listen carefully, and he draws conclusions from his own reasoning, his own rhetorical trickery. We'll, again, watch that all unfold. It's just evident that he's demonstrating the exact flaws that Luna's discussing in her video series. And I think that anybody who would benefit from surrounding themselves in solid dialectical materialist analytical methodology, it would be Vaush. Because Vaush doesn't seek a comprehensive perspective, doesn't like to read theory, says that, openly. Is not familiar with the text that these things are based on, is not familiar with the history of Vietnam, the rather series in this video, several examples, and yet presents himself as an expert to his audience. And unfortunately, because the audience doesn't know anything about dialectical materialism either, which isn't their fault, I didn't know anything about it until pretty recently in my life, because we're not taught this stuff, in the capitalist imperialist core of the USA and Europe and Canada, places where Vaush's audience is largely based. We're not taught this stuff. Luna was taught this stuff her whole life in college. Now you can say she's brainwashed, whatever. I hope that you will at least check out what she's saying before you make those accusations. Again, I hope that you seek a comprehensive perspective for passing judgments like that. Because honestly, what she's learned through the curriculum of dialectical materialism is to examine as much evidence from as many sources as possible for making judgments. It's as simple as that. And there are many other things that Vaush misunderstands about Luna's points on dialectical materialism, which I don't.
Well, he actually explained it exactly as it's explained in Marx's writing.
You're in the lead.
So
Stay.
you don't seem to understand it.
don't think comes from a lack of ability to understand Vaush's point. I don't think that Vaush has any kind of like mental or psychological or any other kind of barrier to understand these points. They're actually very simple points. I think the problem is he's going into it already thinking he knows everything, and that is exactly what dialectic materialism seeks to do. And I think that it also presents a problem that Malatesta talked about. Malatesta talked about how we should not try to build and stoke up conflict with potential comrades in the working class as we try to build social. Malatesta was an anarchist. He lived at a time when there was anarchists, anti-capitalist, anti-fascist left, and he wrote, "If we anarchists could achieve the revolution on our own, or the socialist could arrow, we could enjoy the luxury of each active transform, but the revolution will be made by all the proletariat, all the people, whereas the socialists and anarchists are a numerical minority." That's even more true today than it was in Malatesta's time. So they appear to enjoy the sympathy of the people as a whole. For us to be divided, even when there are grounds for unity, would mean dividing the workers, or rather cooling off their sympathy, as well as making them less likely to follow the socialistic line common to both socialists and anarchists, and which is at the heart of the revolution. It is up to the revolutionaries, especially the anarchists and socialists, to see to this by not exaggerating the differences and paying attention above all to the realities and objectives which can unite us and assist us to draw the greatest possible revolutionary advantage in the present situation. So in all honesty, I don't want to have beef with Vaush. I don't want to make this video. But I think that Vaush, by making videos called "This is the stupidest tanky video I've ever seen, brain damage suffered," about a Vietnamese woman who's just honestly, legitimately, I can tell you from spending every day of my life with her, trying to educate people about what she's learned and what she finds valuable as a socialist. And she's never said you have to do what she says. She's never once said you have to follow her ideas or follow what Vietnam has done. In fact, she says all the time repeatedly that you can't follow Vietnam's path because Vietnam has very unique history and material conditions, and your material conditions wherever you are in the world are going to be different. She's not trying to sway you or convince you. She's just giving information, she's translating this work from the Vietnamese curriculum on dialectic materialism and presenting it to you, and hoping that you'll find something valuable. And maybe
Yeah, well, Luna can share what she's learned, but what she's learned is not what was written by the person who developed the fucking theories and the mode of analysis.
maybe it's not much. Maybe you don't like the ideas generally, but there's probably stuff in there that you'll find valuable if you'll just watch it and pay attention to it in good faith and check out the sources it draws from, which is again, fully cited in the book that she's translating.
All right, this is the video. So how do they play the on this? Because I
So Vaush says he's read all the theory, he doesn't want to hear it. That's not true. I can tell you as somebody who has read all the theory that was cited, every word of it, because I helped make this video, and I've been helping her translate this book, and I have actually read the theory. He's not read the theory. There will be plenty of evidence for that. And let's just watch and see and find the evidence that Vaush did not actually read all the theory.
Second of all, and this is really important, okay? Marxism and Leninism is a real thing, okay? Basically, here's the history of Lenin theory, all right? Cool dudes with revolutionary ideas wrote those ideas into paper and made them Marxist, okay? But then later, other people did different how it's sold, and they realized that was being valued by the ideology. Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, or Marxism, Leninism, whatever else. And essentially, they just word for word for take some like, hey, but actually, like, the revolution is okay. I understand that you can get like a PhD in Marxism, Leninism in Vietnam, which is very funny to me, that a capitalist state would allow you to get a degree in a subversive revolutionary ideology.
So Vaush has just glossed over decades of history of various nations, some that still exist and some that do not, without citing any sources, and just completely dismissed the concept of dialectical materialism by conflating it entirely with Marxism and Leninism, which dialectical materialism predates Lenin's work, okay, because Marx and Engels were developing dialectical materialism before Engels was born. Now, that being said, of course, it is true that Luna is learning things from a Marxist-Leninist framework in her college studies, which includes writings of Lenin, okay? So if you want to...
I died a lot, but 17 opponents defeated, 5 knockouts. Sounds good to me. And I completed the thingy. Still need to get... Oh, I'm done. Cool. Go to the tower. Boom. Let's go. How long have we been going? Report that shit. I don't need these kind of fucking spam ad thing going on.
Checking. Bye.
Heartless Shisu. Zora's sword.
Tell me,
His old
you
sword.
don't fear Vanguard operations? You fear the Crucible?
God, this non-compete video is very, very painful to watch because it's full of so much dumb shit. And I'm probably gonna do some diversified content.
Let's
Mr.
see
Doctor
what we've got.
Professor Gamer, huh? Alright.
How can I help?
Want to make specific claims about the Soviet Union or about Lenin, you can do that. But to just gloss over all of that history and present this very simplified and really dogmatic version of the events of history without citing any sources, without any evidence whatsoever, that's an example of sophistry. Now, I guess I can't.
No, and he also does cite examples and sources. A lot of the time when he talks about stuff, and he kind of just described the concepts in a way that actually aligns more with the actual theory. Doesn't matter how many citations you source if your citations are fucking wrong. I could source shit from the 1400s or 1500s, and it could be fucking wrong, okay? It doesn't matter how many you have. What matters is the accuracy.
Expect him to give the entire history of the Soviet Union to prove his point or whatever.
Which, I mean, if there's a lot of sources that agree on a thing, then yeah. But if you're cherry picking quotes and you're using state approved textbooks
She wanted to express herself,
run
so
distributed
I'd
by
give
the
her a thumbs
Ministry of Education, 1984 shit,
Sign here.
I would rather read the actual books they came from. I don't need the synthesized versions of the theory as written by PhDs approved by the state for the state ideology.
But I would expect some backing of his claims. He never backs up his claim. He's not giving you a real comprehensive historical analysis whatsoever. He's just saying a bunch of stuff, conclusions that he's drawn in his own mind. He's not even telling you what's led him to those conclusions.
To me, it's just like here that
Eververse
No, he
trades
does,
includes wheat
actually.
deal
like Amazon has like socialist, like side jobs you can do. What do they call them? Like the modules? Yeah, like socialism modules. You know what I mean?
All of this criticism that he's making of the
He's making fun of her, and he's just, oh my god.
curriculum that Luna translated, he's making it without having examined the curriculum at all. I know. How do I know this? Because currently the curriculum only exists in Vietnamese. Why do I know this? Because Luna's the first person to be translating it to English. Now, the videos that she's made are drawn from the same source material.
Vaush reads Vietnamese.
And if he's watched all three of those, which he hasn't, he's only watched the first one on stream, but if he watched all three of those, and he was actually drawing from what she is actually saying about the curriculum, it's one thing, but he's not. He's trying to connect two things together which are not connected. He's trying to build this rhetorical logic chain that falls apart upon any kind of scrutiny. He's saying, okay, first of all, these socialist states, they're actually capitalist states, so we can't trust anything that they say. Second of all, these
Well, they are capitalist, by definition.
curriculums that they make, they can't be subversive because they're not actually socialist states. But none of
No, he just said it was funny that they would approve a subversive ideology and that he thinks that they've bastardized it. Like every country that does this shit has done. He's saying that they're not teaching the actual revolutionary ideology.
this is addressing what Luna actually says in her videos, which is literally just relating the essential ideas of Marx and Engels, dialectical materialism. He is, in fact, making a logical fallacy, and I always thought debate bros are supposed to be the
No, he's not! Hey, guys. Guys, making jokes at the expense of non-compete's wife are now logical fallacies. You can't make jokes at Luna Oi's expense, otherwise you're engaging in a logical fallacy. Oh my god.
experts on logical fallacies, but what he's doing is he's making an ad hominem attack. Now, the word ad hominem gets thrown around.
And no, he is not making an ad hominem attack. No. He addressed the argument and then made fun of it. You fucking dipshit. You clown.
A lot, especially in the debatosphere, but it doesn't just mean that you're insulting your opponent. It means that you are saying that an opponent's argument.
God, he went from being an anarchist to being a ML, but the problem with his Marxist-Leninism is he doesn't just simp for the authoritarian state, he also simps for his wife. Bro, how full is your cum vat? Like, come on, non-compete.
Arguments are invalidated because of who your opponent is. So in this situation, basically the entity that is the Vietnamese Department of Education, the Ministry of Education, is being invalidated. So it's like saying anything that comes from the Ministry of Education is invalid. Period. It doesn't matter what they were drawing from, it doesn't matter what they say. That's an ad hominem attack. It is a logical fallacy. It's like if I was making this video and I just said, hey.
No, that is not. As a matter of fact, an ad hominem attack, just before I Google it, is when you dismiss a person's argument and attack them instead.
Eververse isn't just a title, it's a promise.
Directed against a person rather than the position they are maintaining. Of an argument or reaction directed against the person. Yeah, no. He didn't ad hom via Luna Oi. He said that they teach a bastardized version and made a joke at the expense of that. Like, come on. Y'all are so dishonest and weaselly.
Hey, Vaush is a jerk. He's a jackass. So everything he says is wrong. That's an ad hominem. It doesn't stand to scrutiny.
That would be an ad hominem. Well, kind of. That's just an insult. By saying, no, you're a dipshit, so... That's it. Like, if he was making a point, you're like, well, you're a dipshit, so... That's an ad hom. I have ad hom to people.
Eververse isn't just a title.
Also, again, Vaush knows nothing at all about the Vietnamese Ministry of Education, doesn't know anything about the materials that they produce, has never seen the curriculum, hasn't even watched Luna's video, doesn't even know what she's going to say. So Vaush wants you to go ahead and dismiss all of these ideas from this curriculum, sight unseen, even though he's not seen them himself, simply because they come from a state which he doesn't think is legitimately socialist. This is horrifically incoherent. The reason...
No, he actually didn't say to just dismiss them. He just made fun of them. He's never said to not check them out. As a matter of fact, he says he wants the English versions. Or he'll brush up on his Vietnamese and read them. But yeah, no. So, the fact that he said he actually wants to read them himself is a huge blow to your... He doesn't want you to check them out. He wants you to check them out. He wants to check them out. You fucking idiot. You absolute clown. Oh my god. And notice, he's constantly... Because he's just flying off the handle right now. He structured this video, and he's showing all the signs of being a weaselly fuck. I am live streaming. I have to check my surroundings and shit also, because, you know, just gotta make sure everything is where it needs to be.
that we can attack a book or an essay or whatever are because of the things that they contain, the content. Hey, the background is important in studying the work because, again, you want to see historical perspective. But Vaush doesn't know who wrote these books. He doesn't know the conditions under which they were written. He doesn't know the original sources from which they draw. And it's all evident.
And yet he does, as he addressed them.
In this little sophistic false logic chain that he presents. And that his audience just...
And that's not sophistry. You absolute moron.
Eats up because they don't know any better. So I'm going to show you now, some excerpts from this book that Luna's been tirelessly translating for over a year now. Look, it's all just referencing angles. According to angles, dialectics, so-called objective dialectics prevail throughout nature, and so-called subjective dialectics, dialectic of thought, is only the reflection of motion drops which asserts itself everywhere in nature, blah, blah, blah. And then down here, two more citations. Socialism, Utopian, Scientific Critique Angles. The old preface to Anti-During on dialectics, critique angles. Have you really read all these books? Do you know what's being referenced here? So you're not just attacking the state. Look, the book is packed full of quotations from Engels and Marx. None of this stuff was just ginned up by the state. I'm telling you because I wrote...
He never said that it was just ginned up by the state. The only thing he said was ginned up by the state was Marxism-Leninism itself. So you yourself are conflating a whole bunch of different points that Vaush has made because you're a manipulative liar. EJ. That's you. As a matter of fact.
I'm non-compete. Nazis had a point. I'm Luna Boy. Nazis had a point.
Maybe the Nazis
I'm non-compete.
maybe the
Nazis had a point.
maybe the Nazis have the
Nazis had a point. I'm non-compete. Nazis had a point. I'm Luna Boy. Nazis had a point.
Yeah, can't do that.
half the annotations or more. I did the research to fact check and back all this stuff up. None of the core ideas, none of the ideas that are being presented come from the state. Okay, so regardless of whether or not you think that the state is legitimately socialist, this curriculum is rooted at the very foundation in direct quotes from Engels and Marx on dialectical material and the philosophy.
Well, doesn't matter. It can be rooted in direct quotes. They can also be poorly done, like poorly cherry-picked quotes to form an ideology out of whatever. You can pull ideologies out of the theory, like multiple forms of ideologies out of just theory written by different leftists. All sorts of fucking weird shit. By cherry-picking things. Or by being shown cherry-pick things and being asked to formulate stuff. But if you actually read the stuff that's written around it, the context that matters, well, then you come to different conclusions.
Look, this is all quotations from Marx, from Engels, from Hegel, even from Lenin's notebooks, philosophical notebooks on Hegel. You read those? It's filled with citations. Anti-During, dialectics of nature. The core text of dialectical materialism are being referenced here again and again and again and again. And this is the exact text that Luna's drawing from in her video. Okay, I'm not just making this shit up. Luna's not making this shit up. The Vietnamese Ministry of Education is not making this stuff up. They're drawing it directly from Marx and Engels.
I never said they were making it up. That's such a dishonest thing. And to keep repeating it over and over to just try and hammer it in. Hey, they didn't make this up. They didn't make this up. Well, good thing he never fucking said they made it up.
Yes, Lenin as well.
It's like, hey guys, listen, Bezos isn't so bad. Look, you can take a listen, okay? It's called the People's Warehouse. It's like, so yeah.
Show me.
He's just making jokes. Manipulative liar. Yeah. You're clipping out jokes that he's putting that he's making. Talk about a humorless fuck. Oh my god. EJ, dude. Go to a comedy club. Go to a comedy club. Seriously. Please. I beg of you.
Show me, Vaush, where anywhere in Luna's video or anywhere in the text they even talk about the state like this. They don't. They don't tell you anything positive in the entire 300-page book, which we...
And that wasn't even from him making fun of, like, the text. He was just making jokes because his chat was making jokes and he was jumping in on it. Oh my god, talk about dishonesty. You know what? Hold on. I want to actually edit the... I want this line right here. How do I do this? There it is. Sweet.
If we come out soon, you can get a free copy for yourself. The digital version will be free, so you can go and check this hopefully within a month or two. They never talk about even justify the state. They never even talk about that. The whole thing is about philosophy. So Vaush right now is talking about shit he does not understand at all. He has no basis to be saying the things that he's saying. He's acting like this is a textbook on why you should worship the state. It has nothing to do with that. It's about things like, the relationship between consciousness and the material world. It's about how things develop over time. It's about how all things in the universe are connected. He's painting a picture that is inaccurate. It's dishonest, and quite frankly, it's harmful to the left. He is, as Malatesta wrote, dividing the working class even where there are grounds for unity. And this is what he does throughout the video.
Again, cherry picking quotes. That's kind of the main criticism there. EJ. Yeah, dividing the working class. I mean, you don't want to work with far-right people. Like, Malatesta can also have gotten some things wrong, buddy. Enrico Malatesta was a very smart individual who can also have gotten things wrong. Marx got some stuff wrong. He thought planned economies were a good idea.
I never thought I would need any of this knowledge ever in my life. I thought it would just be a normal government office job the rest of my life. But what has gotten so scary so fast? Now I know this knowledge is very important, and I'm like, so I excellent. So the only share is knowledge we know. I was trying to make it less boring than how I was born and raised in Massachusetts. You didn't study Massachusetts and from school all the way through college.
That's okay.
Why is it weird?
That definitely sounds like a economic and philosophical. It's not a doctrine. The weird thing is, okay, there's a very big difference, I think, between like being sort of implicitly taught something and being sort of like explicit state ideology.
You don't know what she was taught, Vaush. You don't know what she was taught. You've never seen a Vietnamese textbook. You don't speak Vietnamese, and this curriculum's never been translated into English until now. You don't know what she was taught. You don't know what you're talking about, but you're so confident. This is not how leftists should behave at all. This is not conducive to building a movement in which we trust each other and in which we are grounded in reality. You're making shit up. Debate bros are always accusing everyone of straw man, and that's exactly what you're doing. You're building a straw man of what Luna was taught. You don't know what she was taught. There's no way that you could know unless you speak Vietnamese. The book's not even out yet. The curriculum that she translated, which by the way, even the 300-page textbook is only the first part of one book from one of the classes that Luna took. You don't know what she was taught. You're making gross assumptions with absolutely no grounding in reality. That's what you're doing. I'm sorry, there's no other way to put this. And I know this is somebody who has actually been going through this book in, with a fine-tooth comb, checking every single fact, annotating it. Now, if you want to attack the ideas that Luna has, then actually talk about the ideas that she has, okay? What she's doing right now is she's explaining how she's come to possess this knowledge, okay? Which, yes, you can be skeptical of it, and that's fine. If all Vaush said at this point is, we should be skeptical because this is coming from a state that blah, 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 I don't trust, blah, 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 that's fine. But he's not. He's presenting as fact bullshit that he's just plucking out of his imagination. And that's what he's doing. There's no other way to put it. Again, Vaush is just making shit up and presenting it as fact, and it's very dishonest, disingenuous, and misleading. It's misinformation. He's actually doing what...
No.
Here's the way of doing. He's indoctrinating his audience right now and not even disclosing that he's indoctrinating them because he's presenting all this stuff like he knows what he's talking about and like he's done all this research and he doesn't know what he's talking about. He hasn't.
Well, he knows more than you, and I've double-checked it. and he knows more than you. He's just smarter than you. He's better at debate than you, and you are too much of a fucking whiny baby to actually engage. You just wanted to go onto his stream and paint him as a pedophile and run away like all the other fucking dipshit red fash pieces of shit like you do. Luna, Professor Flowers, that fucking what's his name? Tanky Cope. This guy.
Spoken or articulate in a surprised voice. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like that. Like when I was very young,
BP.
my parents like
Only
Professor
Zots.
Flower.
This guy right here. This fucking idiot. Yeah, this guy's a dipshit. BP is a fascist. I mean, come on. And you just sit there and you talk to people who have made death threats against Vaush, when Vaush's community has never made death threats against any of you idiots. We just call you fucking fascists. Or dipshits, or unwitting pawns of fascism. Like, there's different varying degrees to what I think you guys fall into. Sometimes you're just dumb. Like, I've come across plenty of Marxist-Leninists online, and a couple in real life, who were just very dumb. But this guy, oh my fucking god. Let me see if I can... Oh, look, it's the entire crew. So you've got, after the non-compete debate, and then only Zorts, or only Zots, whatever the fuck this guy's name is, and then BP, this guy right here.
Doesn't really mean this.
What?
Because
There we go. A lot of black people that are racist against white people. True.
So, what Vaush is doing in this situation is describing how the bigotry of the black people were pushed upon the white people in the 50s. He says that it is justified, and I'm sure he doesn't really mean this.
What?
Because, you know, he doesn't care despite that there was laws that would require black people to clear the sidewalk for white men. Or they faced a possible lynching.
What?
Vaush was being very gracious there. Because the bigotry that black people have shown white people by not being good slaves,
what?
is not correct.
Such a fucking reach. Yeah, no, this guy's actually threatened to kill Vaush and talks about some crazy Hitler-like shit.
The black folks should have been getting into a position to listen to their master.
Yeah, that's this guy. And then you get one of the worst additions. Actually, one of the better additions. I'm not even gonna lie. Lua. Professor Flowers. Luna, I don't think is all that... I mean, she's not dumb. She's misinformed and propagandized and says some dumb shit. EJ, I think, is just dumb. This guy is a posturing fuckwit who is also kind of dumb. This guy, I don't know much about him outside of the fact that he has said... I've seen many people say he has said some very yikesy shit that kind of is Hitler-esque. And then you've got Professor Flowers, who couldn't absolutely condemn ethnic cleansing. She would say that she doesn't support it, but instead of just going, no, I don't think it'd be a thing that they should do. Done. Didn't need to argue the point any further than that. You didn't need to be like, but if they think it's necessary. No. You just go, no, I think it's bad. Ethnic cleansing's bad, okay? I would encourage them not to do it. And yes, if an ethnic cleansing starts happening, there should be some form of, not necessarily military intervention or anything, but like, people should try and like talk them out of it or something. I don't fucking know. I don't have all the answers here. But ethnic cleansing bad. Oh, and then this fuck. Professor Darwin, re-education. Pardon me, break. Mosquitoes in Haiti. And then a pigeon break. And then final thoughts, yeah, okay. So yeah, you got the whole fucking crew of dipshits and fascistic-leaning people.
Examine the curriculum. He's doing exactly what the USA curriculum of capitalist indoctrination does, right? Just with unironic obliviousness and a complete lack of awareness of what he's actually doing and how he's doing exactly what he accuses the USA of doing. Now he's going to try to build the case that Vietnam is a capitalist country. So basically, nothing that you're going to see here has anything to do with the subject at hand. He's going to go to Google and quickly Google the GDP and do some hand waving about how.
There was points being brought up in his chat that he was addressing, but non-compete doesn't have the cognitive ability to recognize what's going on when this happens. See, he doesn't live stream very often, I don't think. I guess he does on Twitch, but he's not partnered there. They don't get as many views. But I mean, even if he does stream live, that's even worse. Not recognizing that you need to interact with your chat when they bring up points and stuff, and kind of.
The economy has gotten a lot better, which is supposed to be evidence for the fact that Vietnam is capitalist, and therefore, if Vietnam is capitalist, then
no, that, oh my fucking god, no, that was because of the market reforms that brought back private property and shit. Oh my god, EJ, that's also dishonest. Why don't you just show the part? Why don't you show it?
nothing that comes out of Vietnam from Vietnamese socialists has any validity whatsoever. It's a way of discrediting Luna and silencing the Vietnamese socialist perspective. And again, it is a logically fallacious ad hominem attack. It's an attempt.
No, it's not, actually. He was demonstrating that due to the private property market reforms and commodity productions, with the wage labor, they are not fucking socialist. They say it's a socialist-oriented market economy, but it's a capitalist market economy. There's heavy government intervention, so it's more social democratic. There's still state-run enterprises, but guess what? There's state-run enterprises in most countries. That doesn't make it socialist. State ownership isn't socialism.
To poison the mind of the viewer into believing that anything that Luna will say in this video is immediately a priori invalidated, even though Vaush has never seen the video and has no idea what Luna's going to say, and has no idea what sources are being drawn from.
No, he was actually just saying, no, Vietnam isn't socialist. There isn't a connection. This is literally the weaseliest shit. Ever. He said that they're not socialist, and here's why. He didn't say, and that's why everything that you're gonna hear in this video is fucking bullshit. No. He goes through and addresses the points individually, but you're not actually gonna show all of that. You tell people to go and watch the thing, but I know you hope deep down that they actually don't, because it would show how much of a fucking dipshit liar you are. That, and it's kind of proven that whenever you say to go and watch this video, if you want, I've done it, people generally won't go and watch it and call you out on your bullshit. But I did watch the video. I saw the whole fucking thing. Twice. I've watched this video 3 fucking times. I also watched your Cope stream.
It's really outrageously ridiculous if you're paying attention. The problem is Vaush's audience is just nodding along and just scooping this stuff up without any critical thinking about the absolute disconnect between the GDP of Vietnam and philosophical points about dialectical materialism.
From a command economy. Stock exchange. Private ownership of small enterprises. Oh, it's not what I wanted. Oh. Is there no payment needed? No, they don't even talk about it? Multi-sectoral market economy where the state sector plays a decisive role in directing economic development with the eventual long-term. Okay, so they claim that. Part of a series on Ho Chi Minh Time. Socialist-oriented market economy is broader to market-based mixed economy, which, yeah, that's... I don't have an inherent problem with getting rid of centrally planned economies, because I don't like centrally planned economies. Planned by who? based on the predominance of state-owned industry, which the state doesn't have anything to do with fucking having a socialist communist society, and it definitely doesn't have anything to do with having an anarchist society, which they don't claim to be. These reforms were undertaken to allow Vietnam to integrate with the global market economy. These socialist-oriented is used to highlight the fact that Vietnam has not yet achieved socialism and is in the process of building the basis for a future socialist society. The economic model is similar to a employed in the socialist market economy. Public ownership and state-owned enterprises within a market economy. 1992. Wages. Payments. Private sector. Oh, wow. Such socialism.
Just watch.
Yeah, look at that. Right down here. I wish this was more like exponential or whatever, but like right here, back in 1988, I think, 1989, their GDP per capita was less than $100. It was 1/7 of the Philippines. Like, look at this. Nothing. And now it's like 30 times that. Which is pretty incredible, right? GDP is a capitalist creation, and Vietnam is a capitalist country. I'm not sure what the issue is.
Oh, it's GDP is a capital.
Yeah, when he was talking about the fucking Doi Moi and how it... $10 years. 95 to 390. Yeah.
Creation. And Vietnam's a capitalist country. That doesn't mean anything. It's just another example of sophistry. He just throws that out there as a little dig at Vietnam to try to undermine Luna's points about dialectical materialism. Really...
No. You fucking moron. A, that's not sophistry. And 2, it's relevant to show that a capitalist state will bastardize ideologies and theories to make them less threatening. Duh. Fucking idiot. Absolutely just the worst. The worst takes.
Have nothing to do with any of this. This is sound and fury signifying nothing. Okay, he's proving nothing with these charts, but let's just see what else he has to say. This is something that sophists do all the time, by the way. They make these little snide remarks because it rhetorically builds their case without adding any substance, and it also gives them plausible deniability that later on they can go back.
It added substance. The substance is Vietnam's not actually a fucking socialist nation. What? Like, there's a whole broader point, and there's subtext to everything said. But NonCompete just can't actually gather the subtext. His subtext here is, I don't like Vaush, he was mean to my wife, and so I have to make something to defend her. But what he doesn't seem to realize is that by doing this video, A, he looks like, well, a fucking white knight, even though Luna says she wanted him to make the video because he's the token white guy. Like, come on. NonCompete. You made this video to defend your wife, and also to try and deceive people into thinking Vaush is a manipulative liar who uses dirty tactics. And yet, nobody has ever actually demonstrated them. If anything, your video essay here has been way more dishonest. Holy shit.
Go back and say, oh, I was just joking, or you don't have a sense of humor or whatever. And this brings to mind also Socrates' critique of the sophists. He talked about there was a danger in teaching people rhetoric without teaching them wisdom. And, you know, the fact that the sophists believe that there was no absolute truth, and the truth is whatever you argue your way to defining. And
no, that's actually not entirely true. I literally just read up about this. They did believe that there wasn't an absolute truth, which is true. There isn't an absolute fucking truth. But, no, they were actually teachers of philosophy. The original sophists were teachers of philosophy. Socrates did have criticisms of them. And some of his criticisms were valid, and some of them were not. And your understanding of this is subpar.
Socrates talked about...
You wouldn't pass a high school ethics class, buddy.
The sophists would, like, blur the lines between humor and...
Or I guess philosophy class, but whatever.
Seriousness, so you never know if they're joking or not. So that if you ever do catch them in some kind of fallacy or, just making some kind of bullshit point, they can always just go, oh, I was just joking, have a sense of humor, bro. The sophists were doing that thousands of years ago. It's not a new trick. And...
No. I literally studied this right before I started the stream, and I saw no evidence of that kind of shit.
And, Vaush is clearly doing that here now.
30 years is meaningful in any way, then yes, that does mean something. There is some kind of metric.
Talk about being a liar, though. Oh, I'm just gonna make up a story about fucking sophists and make it eerily similar to Vaush. No, you fucking idiot. You manipulative weaselly fuck.
Worth there, criminologists in Vietnam.
Throw him in the dough pit!
Basically, just authoritarian stock news. If you want social democracy, go to the Scandinavian countries. Yeah, Vietnam has some good stuff, but yeah.
He just went and Googled a chart and looked at it for a few seconds. So there was
Sorry, Doe doesn't want non-compete in its town. Vietnam needs a pit. It can be the EJ pit, where you just throw EJ for being dumb and a liar and weaselly and slimy.
absolutely no point in anything Vaush just said at all.
For over 100 years, Marxism has been tested all over the world. Many times communism has almost been wiped out by capitalism. But to this day, Marxism still exists and lately it's been growing more and more popular, even though capitalism has spent so much money and so many resources trying to wipe us out. For example, in the USA, capitalism is what gives the white supremacism and transphobia and all other forms of bigotry their power. It's the capitalist state that uses this and lately it's been growing more and more popular, even though capitalism has spent so much money and so many resources trying to wipe us out. For example, in the USA, capitalism is what gives the white supremacism and transphobia and all other forms of bigotry their power. It's the capitalist state that
No, incorrect. Moving on. No, I will not elaborate. Any economic superstructure is going to be vulnerable to exploitation from bigoted groups, but that doesn't have to be capitalism. That could be feudalism. That could be mercantile.
When did she say otherwise, Vaush? When did she say otherwise?
She said capitalism is the force that does this. Capitalism has spent money, countless amounts of money and resources, to try and wipe out communism. Capitalism brought in these things. She's pretty implicitly saying this is because of capitalism.
Did you say that capitalism is the only economic mode of production that can have secondary contradictions and other forms of oppression? Luna has written extensively in other works about secondary forms of contradiction.
Yeah, so? Vietnam calls itself a socialist country. It's not.
And how Vietnam is still working to dismantle secondary forms of oppression as they're building socialism. She's written about these things. You are literally putting words in her mouth that she did not say, the definition of strawmanning. You're saying irrelevant bullshit right now. She didn't say that capitalism is the only form of economic production that leads to things like bigotry and prejudice and sexism. She said that under capitalism, it is the system of capitalism, which this is, by the way, basic Marxism, right? The economic base defines the superstructure. The superstructure also impacts the base. She's saying that under capitalism, it is capitalism which defines and enables these forms of oppression to exist as they do. A great example of that is whiteness. I have a whole video on how...
See, I'm going to explain this to you before you start going, oh, but you think Wikipedia's good on everything else. Wikipedia puts forth what the country will say that it identifies as. It's not in a position to contest whether or not a country is actually socialist. It puts forth information about the country as presented by the country and other sources. If the country calls itself socialist, Wikipedia will call it socialist. Nope, see, I'm already addressing that point before it even got here. So, no. That's not it.
Whiteness as a form of oppression dialectically developed alongside capitalism. Okay, so whiteness and racism against black people and people of color in the form which it takes in the bourgeois civil society, the superstructure which we have today, it exists in that form as determined by capitalism. That doesn't mean that it will just magically disappear when capitalism disappears, and capitalism won't magically disappear. And she never said that. And she didn't say that there aren't problems with, different...
And he never suggested that, so you're going on about tangents that are completely irrelevant to manipulate people into thinking that Vaush is saying things that he's not.
Forms of oppression like sexism in Vietnam today. Luna faces sexism in Vietnam today. She's bisexual. She faces various forms of bigotry.
Oh, that's very interesting, because Luna Oi is the one who said that the LGBTQ movement in Vietnam is a color revolution, which is a very sus fucking thing to say. Instead of supporting an organic movement in Vietnam, because Vietnam doesn't like gay people, you call it a color revolution, because you're a nationalist shit. It's kind of similar to what this dude in my chat keeps doing, by just dismissing anything bad done by his country.
In Vietnam today. Okay, so she's not making the argument that a bourgeois civil society and capitalism are the only ways.
No, this logic cannot be applied to everything. You're very dumb, and I know you don't understand the logic that I used.
She didn't say that. You just watched her talk for several minutes uninterrupted. Were you actually paying attention to what she's saying? Or do you just want to insert a little bullshit line of sophistic rhetoric that paints a picture of Luna inaccurately and leads your audience by the nose to believing that she believes things that she never stated, and in which...
See, the fact that you don't understand these things, and I'm really making it super fucking simple here, Camel. Okay? Wikipedia will put forth information about a country, gathered from multiple sources, based on the economic system that they put for the country on Wikipedia is the one that the country itself identifies with. If you look at China over here, I don't know if it actually has a... Okay, so that's the first one, communist. Communist Party, Communist Revolution, Communist Battle, Communist. And see, they say that they're communist, but I can point out how they're not. See, so Wikipedia will put the economic system on the page for a country based on what the country identifies their economic system to be. They don't contest this. No, it's not the same logic. Here's the deal. Again, they pull from multiple fucking sources. There are multiple sources that say that Assad committed war crimes, and they cite those sources. It's not just because a human rights organization in America say so, it's because every fucking source in the world that isn't Assad himself or Russia agrees that, yeah, Assad has done terrible shit and committed these war crimes. Not just one or two sources here, Camel. Not just one or two. Can you get this through your fucking baby brain? Can you get this into your very thick skull here, Camel? Does it penetrate for you? Is it getting through to you? You absolute dipshit. You fucking smooth brain cancerous blight on my chat. Not the same logic. It's not. Because, you see, when it's applying to a full country, they're not going to contest what the country has done, or what the country claims is its economic system. When it comes to an individual with a whole shitload of evidence against them, no. China has admitted it. Lebanon acknowledges it. Fucking every country that isn't Syria and Russia that has knowledge of the situation going on there acknowledges that Assad has done this. Not Mossad and CIA, you fucking idiot. You absolutely useless smooth-brained conspiracy theorist. You're so goddamn stupid. I can't... How do you wake up in the morning and put on your shoes? Does somebody feed you? Does somebody dress you? Does somebody else have to wipe your ass for you, Camel? Are you using a talk-to-text function? A text-to-speech function? Or a speech-to-text function? On your phone? Or your computer? Or whatever the fuck? To be able to put these messages out? Is somebody else typing them for you? I need to know the answer to these questions. Because you're so fucking stupid. I cannot believe that you can even feed yourself.
In fact, she has heavily contradicted in her body of work, which you have not examined.
There is no economic system that can insulate you from bigotry. They're two, not separate, but two distinct fights.
And, again, you're trying to divert back to Syria, which is completely off topic. You dipshit. We're not talking about Syria anymore. That's over and done with. Assad is a dictator. You're a dumb fuck. Assad ruins the country. That's it. That's done. That is my position, and you are not moving me on it because you're a dumb fuck nationalist. You're propagandized too, and you don't know anything. So, everything is a conspiracy to you. So there's no point in engaging with it. You can stay in my chat and listen to me talk about the things that I'm talking about that are and provide some discourse that's relevant to the fucking topic, but every single time you move it back to Syria. And I don't give a fuck anymore, okay? I don't give a fuck to talk about Syria right now. That's not what I'm here to do.
That have to be one.
Distinct, by the way, and if you study dialectical materialism, you'd understand this. And this is something that Luna taught me. Just as these forms of oppression are dialectically linked, in the sense that capitalism determines the ways in which oppression can function, right? Because under capitalism, the people with power are the capitalists, right? The bourgeoisie. And just as those forms of oppression reinforce each other, right? We know that racism and capitalism reinforce each other. Do you disagree with me? I know you have a bachelor's degree in sociology. Do you disagree with me? They reinforce each other, right? When you affect one thing, it affects the other thing. And when you fight racism, for example, you are also fighting capitalism because they reinforce each other. If you're doing it properly, and if you understand what you're doing. And that's all that Luna's really trying to say with her whole video series, is that these things aren't distinct. They're not static. They're not some kind of metaphysical construction of independent static ideas. They're not that distinct. They are intertwined. Under capitalism, they were under feudalism. Yes, they will be under socialism, which is why building communism and building a stateless class of society is going to be a long struggle. And yes, even as we build towards communism, we will still have to struggle with these other forms of oppression. She's never once said otherwise. Find me a place where she's ever said otherwise. You're making shit up, Vaush. And your audience doesn't see it because you're very gifted.
He never said that. He never made that kind of claim. Oh my god. Talk about putting words in people's mouth.
And making shit up with the utmost confidence, spewing it out as though it's well measured and based in the factual evidence or whatever. It's not. You just made a bunch of shit up. You put words in her mouth that she didn't say, period.
If you want any...
You put words in his mouth. DJ.
I mean,
and he just goes on and on. You can go watch it. 1332 if you want to watch it.
Ultra, I guess. So, like, I would say the USSR social, or not social.
Yes, maybe I can do a GoFundMe or something to try to say, oh, for me, check out my picture if you're
I'd be down to see translations. I'm not trying to be mean. I would be totally down to see. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like, I'm coming in here with a pretty negative attitude towards this whole enterprise.
Well, I'm glad that you just admitted that you're coming to this with a negative attitude and bad faith. The books are
Talk about putting words in his mouth again, EJ. You Weasley slimy fuckwit. You absolute brain dead cuck lord. Holy shit. You Vaush said that he has a negative attitude towards this. That means he's coming in bad faith. I know ethics. I know philosophy. I know the terms I'm throwing around like a fucking 4-year-old who just learned how to say something. Like, Jesus Christ. No. Coming with a bad attitude does not mean in bad faith. Just because both of those terms have the word bad in them doesn't mean that they're easily conflatable. Oh my god.
Translated. We're doing the final edits now in the typesetting, and they'll be available soon, and the digital copy will be absolutely free. And if you want to donate to Luna, Vaush, for all the work that she's putting in this over the last year, putting in hundreds and hundreds of...
No.
And hundreds of hours in this translation, I've watched her doing it, then, you can go check out her Patreon and support her there. You've used her content enough to get, super chats and shit on your platform. It might be nice for you to throw a few bucks in his way, but anyway, moving on.
Understand a ton of history. There are a ton of
Oh good, he's gone. Fucking shit. That camel idiot. Oh god.
Historical developments, ideological shifts, wars, revolution.
With dialectical materialism, that means you need to be able to dialectically argue a word from a materialist perspective. Wow, that still sounds complicated, doesn't it? But it's interesting. I think it's
What's that name right there? Monorail. Mono means one, and rail means rail.
You've obviously never been a teacher, Vaush, because that's how you introduce topics. If you say something like dialectical materialism to people who've never heard the term before, their eyes gloss over, they know what they're talking about. It's not absurd to explain how these words relate to each other and what they mean. Again, this is just sophistry.
No, it's not sophistry. Oh my fucking god. No, it's not sophistry. Obviously, you don't even know what that means. Jesus fucking Christ, EJ. Making fun of somebody for breaking down. Because people do this all the time. Like with neoliberalism and shit like that. Or neoclassicalism. They try and do that same fucking break it down into their base components and explain it. No, dialectical materialism is a very easily explainable concept. To actually use it is a little bit more difficult. But to explain the concept, not that fucking difficult. You can explain it without going dialectical is this and this and this and this and this, and materialism is this and this. No, you can explain dialectical materialism by itself without having to break it down into its basic fucking components. Because when you put them together, they form a whole other thing. Like, yes, it involves dialectics and materialism, but it's a lens of analysis. So you have to be able to teach people what the lens of analysis actually is. Jesus fucking Christ.
This is puffery. Okay, you're not actually saying anything. She's explaining it very carefully so that people like you won't.
He's making fun of her. Yeah, it's a comedic thing. You fucking... Oh, it's puffery. It's sophistry. No, it's not! I want a Roblox. This is painful to watch. Why? Why are tankies all fucking brain dead?
And misinterpret and misunderstand this shit. So why don't you try to actually pay attention to what she's actually saying? I know you think you're the smartest guy in the room, but she's actually making a point right now, especially people who aren't versed in dialectical materialism like you.
Does anyone have any question? I don't want to nitpick the theory, but I want to let her finish, and then I'll talk.
we call dialectical materialism to me as we it's dialectical, and it means arguing according to evidence. I think that will help understand the difference between Hegel's dialectical idealism and Marx's dialectical materialism. Because
dialectical materialism is not arguing from evidence. It is a lens of analysis. It's not a form of argumentation. It's just not.
Engels believed in using movable material evidence to argue dialectically. That's very hard.
No, it's not about material evidence. It's about material conditions. No.
What are you talking about?
No. Okay. Hegel and people more aligned with Hegel and Marx had different understandings of how progress was made in the world. You see, they were both modernist philosophers, which meant that they believed that the human experience, the philosophy of the world, the nature of things, could be concretely explained in singular narrative ideologies.
So once again, Vaush has no idea what he's talking about. So this is again the book that
Understanding Marx, understanding modernism. Marx writing absorbed lessons of artistic and cultural modernity. Marx saw his work in profoundly modernist terms. Hegel and philosophical modernism. Hegel and modernity. Hegel and the advent of modernity. Hey guys. Guys, I'm non-compete. Vaush said Marx and Hegel are modernist philosophers? Huh. He doesn't know what he's talking about. If you Google Marx modernism, you'll see that Marx was a modernist, and so was Hegel. But Vaush has no idea what he's talking about when he says that Marx and Hegel were modernist. You fucking... Guys. Why do you watch this guy? Why would you watch him? And by extension, Luna. If this is the criticisms they can muster against Vaush, if this is it, manipulative bullshit, misunderstanding terms and concepts left and right, and then attributing boosting misinformation about him, if this is all you've got, then come the fuck on. Just delete your channels. Get the fuck off the internet. Take a break for a month. Holy shit. If you want some critiques of Vaush, talk to Doe. Talk to Dreamleaf. Talk to Celine. Talk to Aaron Green. I'm sure they can provide plenty of critiques of Vaush. I mean, the ableism in and of itself, he's not gonna stop, but that is something to watch out for, like, to just be leery of. Now, he is actually gonna, he made a promise that he was gonna kind of cut back on it. Something that STV Philly called him out on was, his, not lack of charitability, but lessened charitability towards, non-white content creators in their arguments. And Vaush explained that he felt like it would be bigotry of low expectations to give him way too much charitability, and I mean, he conceded after, like, pretty much immediately. Like, Vaush recognized that. You can watch that video. STV Philly brought really good shit, okay? And STV Philly's a good dude. FD Signifier, I'm kind of... There's some good and some bad with FD Signifier, I feel. Like, he's pretty decent. Shark. See if I can just find it. You know what? It'll be in my history, because I was watching his coverage of this. Shark 300. But yeah. Shark has criticisms of Vaush. Hell, Shark was earlier was like, I am Vaush. No, take me back. I do not want to be Vaush. I do not want to turn into him. The Shark has his own critiques of Vaush, even if he agrees with him. Like, there are people who have good critiques of Vaush that aren't this shit.
Has been translated. Dialectics is a philosophical methodology which searches for truth by examining contradictions in relationships between things, objects, and ideas. This is what Hegel and Marx have in common.
Yes. This is true.
Marx and Engels studied Hegel's dialectics, his dialectical system, and they thought that it was very interesting that Hegel created a universal system of philosophy within a dialectical framework. They thought that was useful and valuable, but they completely broke with Hegel over idealism. There's a reason that we call the philosophy of Marx and Engels dialectical materialism, and it's...
Yes, but breaking them down into their components is irrelevant to teaching people what dialectical materialism is. if you wanted to teach people what dialectics is, what materialism is, and then what dialectical materialism is, that's 3 different videos you could have made. Or if you wanted to do it all in one go, series on dialectical materialism. What are dialectics? What is materialism? What is materialism versus idealism? And then part 4, because fuck it, what is dialectical materialism and how to use it?
It's not because of the word material conditions. Yes, Marx and Engels talk about material conditions. Yes, material conditions are important for the development of socialism, and they determine things like human society. Okay, and we'll talk about that more in just a second. But they broke with Hegel's stance of idealism. Hegel believed that truth was found through conscious activity.
Vaush said it's not about... He said it's about material conditions, okay? Which, yeah. Dialectical materialism examines the conflict between the classes and how they propel societies forward.
He was, in that sense, an idealist. Marx and Engels were materialists. Dialectics is this ancient classical philosophy that the Greeks used, this kind of framework for discovering truth. Hegel resurrected those ideas and formed them into this method of philosophical inquiry for German idealists. As Engels wrote in Socialism, Utopia, and Scientific, Hegel's work's greatest merit was the taking up again of dialectics as the highest form of reason. The old Greek philosophers were all born natural dialecticians.
Oh, by the way, they go back to this shit like it's the fucking Bible. They're just dogmatic about their theory. They don't interpret it. They don't apply any of the logic behind it. They just go, oh, book said this, do this. I don't think that's the best course of action based on the material conditions. Do you question philosopher? Do you question the theorist? Are you questioning our God? And it's usually either 1 or 2 people. It's fucking Engels, who wrote dog shit like On Authority, and fucking Lenin, who was a right-wing deviation who only had 1 good piece of theory in my personal opinion, and that's State and Revolution.
And Aristotle, the most encyclopedic of them, had already analyzed the most essential forms of dialectic thought. Hegel's great contribution to dialectics was to...
Fucking hell. Performativity of being angry. I'm not actually even mad. Frustrated by the dumb shit, but not mad.
Develop dialectics from a simple method of examining truth based on discourse into an organized, systematic model of nature and history. Marx and Engels strongly rejected Hegel's idealism as well as the strong influences of Christian theology in Hegel's work, but they also saw great potential in the system of dialectics. As Marx explained in Capital Volume 1, the mystification which dialectics suffers in Hegel's hands. Hegel was a mysticist, an idealist, a theologist, a fideist. This mystification by no means prevents him from being the first to present its general form of working in a comprehensive and conscious manner. Comprehensive is very important here. It means that it's a universal system of analysis. That's what Marx and Engels liked about it. But they thought there were a lot of problems with the system. They thought the fundamental idea of creating a dialectical system of analysis that could be universally applied to all things, phenomena, ideas.
Yeah, they didn't think that you could just think up things and make them and find all truth. You actually had to figure out and experiment with shit because it's how you figure out what's real and not. People thought that the fucking sun revolved around the earth and that the universe revolved around it because that was their ideal situation. And their observations actually led them to that initially. And then people started to think, hey, I don't think that's quite right. Something about that doesn't add up. And then they did more investigation. And guess what? It's called the scientific method. That's literally how people discover truth of pretty much anything. Yeah, you have to experiment.
But they didn't like the idealism which permeated Hegel's works. That's why they conceived of materialist dialectics, dialectical materialism. As Marx wrote, with Hegel, it is standing on its head, which is to say it's idealist. It must be turned right side up again if you discover the rational kernel within the mystical shell. So here's another piece of writing, Socialism, Utopian, and Scientific, which Marx and Engels wrote. The final causes of all social changes and political revolutions are to be sought not in men's brains, right, not idealism, not in their insights into eternal truths and justice, but in changes in the modes of production and exchange.
Now see, here's where things are a little muddied. The final causes of all social changes and political revolutions are to be sought not in men's brains, not in men's better insights into eternal truth and justice, but in changes in modes of production and exchange. That's the thing that spurs them, and the changes that they hope to make are in those areas. But how do you get people to even begin to want that? People can want better, but not have any clue. You have to think about it. So there's kind of a dialectical relationship between thinking about good ideas and the implementation of good ideas.
Change. They are talking about the material basis of reality.
Which one is more important? Well, the actual implementations. The ideas can be all fine, well, and good. The implementation can be dog shit. Yeah.
And the fact that we have to understand the material world and base our arguments and our ideas in the material world, unlike Hegel, who was an idealist. That is the whole point of calling it dialectical materialism, because it distinguishes their form of dialectics from Hegel. Vaush just smushed Hegel and Marx together and said they're both modernists, and they're like basically both in the same school of thought, and they both talk about material conditions. Hegel was...
No, that is fucking a huge abstraction. Oh my god. He was talking, you even cut him off in the middle of his fucking argument, for one. He was saying that they're both modernists, which means that they both believed that there was one school, or one, theory to explain all of human social development, which is true. And then you cut him off there, as he goes on to continue a fucking point. But you had to cut him off there, because letting him actually make the full fucking point would completely blow you out of the fucking water and show that you're a dishonest hack. That you are a fucking weasel. You are a low-life scumfuck, EJ. Like, what the fuck? Seriously, why is this the kind of shit that people... Because I get this kind of manipulative shit thrown at me all the fucking time, alright? All the fucking time. Camel twists my words. There are people on fucking Twitter who are right-wing trolls who try and twist my words. Put words in my mouth. Fucking do all this kinds of shit, alright? I usually weather it pretty well. Sometimes I fucking fly off the handle and yell at people a little bit. And, but still. I have work to do on myself. I'm still in the process of working through that. But I'd like to be able to get forth some ideas and concepts and whatnot that I feel are relevant for people to understand. Or at least get people thinking about shit. You know? But EJ here doesn't care about getting people to think about things. He wants you to read the theory, do what the theory says, don't question the theory, don't use logic to analyze the theory, don't do anything. The theory is the word of God. Do the theory. The theory says this, the theory cannot be wrong. Because he's a dogmatic fuck.
Is not concerned that much with material conditions because...
Who doesn't understand ethics, philosophy, Marxism, or anything that he claims to understand on these issues. Like, I understand them better than him, and if you read the Twitter bio, one of the dumbest anarchists on the planet. That's how bad it is. Like, Jesus fuck.
Because he was an idealist. Hegel's whole point was that the first basis of truth is conscious activity. The first basis of truth is reasoning within the human mind. This is what Engels and Marx hated about Hegel. Did you know that? And if you knew that, then why did you just present things the way in which you just did? Were you being dishonest?
He presented the fact that they're both modernist. That's it. That's all you let him say. Seriously. All of this? Okay, so we're at 4:35. Here.
I think that these will understand the difference between Hegel's dialectical idealism and Marx's dialectical materialism, because
We'll slow it down so that it's actually able to be understood.
and Engels believed in using movable material evidence to argue dialectically. That's very important for...
Oh, wait, I forgot. He sped it up.
No, it's not about material evidence. It's about material conditions.
Yes, because she's saying arguing from material evidence is dialectical materialism. And Vaush is saying that you have to use material conditions to analyze society, and he's correct.
No.
What are you talking about? Let's...
No. Okay? Hegel and people more aligned with Hegel and Marx had different understandings of how progress was made in the world. You see, they were both modernist philosophers, which meant that they believed that the human experience, the philosophy of the world, the nature of things, could be concretely explained in singular narrative ideologies.
So once...
And you cut him off there. That's it. And he goes on, all of this...
which is a specific application of dialectical materialism. So it's confusing you when Luna talks about the much more broad and you does matter because it can impact the material world, essentially is what Marx was saying. And if you read dialectic in this video, is the difference between Marxist dialectical materialism and mechanistic empiricist positivism, where the positivists and the empiricists believe that the material defines everything and that the ideal determines nothing, and that the only truth that can be sought is through what we observe with our senses. Marx actually saw that as a weakness of empiricism because he believed that what happens in consciousness does matter because it can impact the material world, essentially.
Yeah, empiricism in and of itself is also dumb. There's not a singular narrative or a singular lens of analysis or anything that can explain everything. You have to use multiple lenses and multiple different theories. But Vaush is not incorrect when he says that Marx and Hegel are both modernist philosophers. And you're like, huh, are you dumb or dishonest? You're boiling them down to be the same thing. No, he's not. He was going on a point that you cut him off at. Because you're a dishonest weaselly fuck. Absolute fucking brain rot. Like, y'all, I know I'm not the brightest. I really do. And I feel like every time I touch on one of these videos, even off stream, I just lose IQ. Like, it kills my brain cells. Because that's the cancerous effect that people like EJ and Luna and fucking whatever that BP dude's name was, and fucking Only Zozd or whatever.
Is what Marx was saying. And if you read Dialectics of Nature, or Socialism, Utopian Scientific, or Anti-During, you'll see that Marx and Engels, or Capital, Marx and Engels talked about this stuff all the time, extensively. They didn't just talk about historical materialism. Dialectical materialism was used in the analysis of capitalism in Das Kapital, which did draw from historical materialism, but historical materialism is a specific application of dialectical materialism to history. But Vaush here is talking about historical materialism as if that is what dialectical materialism is. It's not.
Well, they're used pretty interchangeably. Yes, they are technically separate concepts, so, you know, good job understanding that they are technically different. But you use dialectical materialism in the process of historical materialism, so, you know, it's kind of,
Historical materialism is a specific kind of focused field of dialectical materialist philosophy to history. I don't know how else to say it. If he doesn't know that, it's because he hasn't studied this stuff deeply enough to know the difference between dialectical materialism and historical materialism, which is based on dialectical materialism. It's as simple as that.
There's a critical, the idea here essentially is a rejection of the old idealists, you know, who believe that the human condition, the human spirit, human society, whatever, advanced through a kind of ideological debate where you have concepts which are refined through antagonisms that arise in the conflict between different variants of an idea, right? But what Marx said was actually that's gay and stupid and dumb and bullshit, okay? In reality, ideas aren't what drive things forward. In reality, it's material conditions. People, societies even, aren't really motivated by ideas.
yeah, true. That is dumb and stupid. And very much, toxic. Super bad. I mean, no, it's not. It's not super bad or toxic, but it is not the best idea.
Let me make this very simple for you, Vaush. You're describing historical materialism, which is a specific application of dialectical materialism. So it's confusing you.
Man, let's get hung up on him using one fucking conflatable term that's easily interchangeable by literally everyone who's ever written on the subject, including Marxists and anarchists and shit who are much more intelligent than you or myself or even Vaush. All right? Multiple people have used it in that way. Shut the fuck up, EJ. You're nitpicking. Move on.
Also, white people can vote if they weren't property owners or whatever. You know, nobody can vote basically. Okay. So, you know, now some people argue, you know, well, ideologically, we arrive at a dialectical resolution when we pass the Civil Rights Act, when we allow women to vote, et cetera, because these conflicting ideas, you know, they challenge one another, so on.
See, he thinks that dialectics just means things conflicting with each other, but it doesn't. A dialectical relationship is simply a relationship in when two things influence each other. They can't be mutually productive.
Can be, but most people look at the conflicts like inquiry into metaphysical contradictions and their solutions. The art of investigating or discussing the truth of opinions. What you think when he says conflicts is like violence, fighting, yelling, shit like that. When conflicts can mean contradictions, as in these two things, two opposing ideas or conditions conflict with one another. Like currently, like we're not currently beating the shit out of capitalists because we have antagonisms and there's contradictions in capitalism. We're not doing that. Those conflicts and contradictions are still there. They're still butting up against each other. So, yeah. Like, there's a whole bunch of different ways. Yes, they can be mutually beneficial when you resolve them.
Actually. So, for instance, the LGBTQ plus movement and anti-racism can dialectically influence each other in productive ways that benefit both. Conflict is what tends to drive development.
Yeah, there's a conflict and a contradiction. There are people who think that you can't be gay and be pro-black or whatever, and there's the opposite side that says you can. Like, I've seen this. I've seen the argumentation. There's a conflict there. And resolving that conflict by discussion mutually benefits both groups. Oh my fucking god, EJ doesn't know anything.
And there are a lot of reasons for that.
EJ! The pit!
goes into in her book. But essentially, there are many forms of dialectical relationship, and dialectical development can take many forms. And to simply say that people argue with each other, that's what dialectics are.
That's what anarchist jail is in the future. It's the pit. He's committed the grave sin of lying about people, misinforming people, and misunderstanding very basic concepts, and then passing those misconceptions on to people, while at the same time berating another person by saying they don't know the fucking concepts that you're misdescribing while the other person actually described them.
Or to say that different movements butting heads with each other, that's what dialectics are. That's just inaccurate. Dialectical development is rooted in motion, which is what Marx and Engels called just change. Okay, as things move and change, it leads to changes in quantity, which leads to eventually changes in quality, and that is what dialectical development is. And the motion happens, the change occurs as things impact each other, and that is what dialectical development is. And yes, all things develop dialectically, including the history of the bourgeois state of the United States of America, including the development of capitalism from feudalism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Vaush just gave a really weird and inaccurate definition of dialectical development that's not rooted in Marx or Engels at all. So like here's Engels describing in perfect detail what dialectical development is, and this is from Luna's curriculum translation on dialectical materialism. We find upon closer investigation that the two poles of an antithesis, positive and negative, are as inseparable as they are opposed, and that despite all their opposition, they mutually interpenetrate, are mixed together. And we find in like manner that cause and effect are conceptions which only hold.
Yeah, guess what? Two poles of an antithesis, positive and negative. Guess what? There's a conflict. If you try and put two positive together, they don't really work. There's conflicts. They can't be separated, but there's still conflicts.
Hold good in their application to individual cases. But as soon as we consider the individual cases in their general connection with the universe as a whole, they run into each other and they become confounded when we contemplate that universal action and reaction in which cause and effects are eternally changing places, so that what is effect here?
And again, you're just quoting it. Back to the fucking Bible. Dogmatism at its fucking finest. Holy fucking shit.
And now will be caused here and then, and vice versa. So Engels is explaining, I'll just read the annotation, that since all things, phenomena, and ideas are relationally linked and interrelated, the mutual impacts and processes of development which lead to change, the reasons and results which transpire between all things, phenomena, and ideas, that they have internally and externally. As a human being, you're defined by the relationships between your consciousness and your body. You're defined by the relationship between your cells. You're defined by the relationship between all conditions. That is the core, fundamental attribute of dialectics, whatever. He saw everything, all things, phenomena, and ideas in all of the universe as intrinsically intertwined and mutually impacting each other. And he tried to look at things in terms of their internal and external relations. That's how he defined capital, the capital of production so brilliantly in the book Capital. He defined capital and the capital of production as this complex system of processes in motion defined by relationships. So that is what dialectical materialism is. It's not what you just said.
Some people argue, well, ideologically, we arrive at a dialectical resolution when we pass the Civil Rights Act, when we allow women to vote, et cetera, because these conflicting ideas, they challenge one another, so on. But if you look at things, I disagree strongly. If you take a look, for example, at the abolition of slavery, one of the big things there is the core question: why was the South so inured to slavery when the North wasn't? And to me, the answer is economics. Okay, it's not because the North was more ideologically developed; it's because the South was less economically developed. They still relied on plantations and cotton picking. So then they had to come up with ideological justifications for the material state of things. You understand?
Okay, let me try to follow this. Vaush is saying that some people say that dialectical development is rooted in arguing between ideas, which is not what Luna said. In fact, it's been a long time since Luna said anything. So let's go back real quick and look at.
Do you see what he's doing here? He's looking at his fucking chat. He's looking at chat. He's answering questions from chat. Oh my god. EJ. You have 101,000 subscribers. Yeah, no.
Me, the answer is economics. Okay, it's not because the North was more ideologically developed; it's because the South was less economically developed. They still relied on plantations and cotton picking. So then they had to come up with ideological justifications for the material state of things. You understand?
Okay, let me try to follow this. Vaush is saying that some people say that dialectical development is rooted in arguing between ideas, which is not what Luna said. In fact, it's been a long time since Luna said anything, so let's go back real quick and look at the last thing Luna said.
So they took the ideas of Hegel and Feuerbach and developed them to create their system of understanding the world, which we call dialectical materialism. So in order to understand Marxism and Leninism, you have to learn how to examine the world with dialectical materialism. That means you need to be able to dialectically argue about the world from a materialist perspective.
Luna said you need to be able to understand the world from a materialist perspective, right? Argue about the world from a materialist perspective.
You have to dialectically understand the world from a materialist perspective, which is not what dialectical materialism actually is.
That does not contradict historical materialism. That does not contradict anything that Vaush just said about material conditions being prerequisites for ideology, or being the driving force of ideology.
He's responding to chat!
It doesn't contradict it at all. Okay, Luna never said that dialectical development is about ideas competing with each other. That's basically idealist dialectics, which Hegel developed. And then, and then you're saying you disagree with idealist dialectics.
Why don't you dialectically put some material in some bitches non-compete? Jesus fucking Christ.
And you believe that it's, development is rooted in material conditions. In other words, that material conditions determine development of societies, which is what Marx said in Historical Materialism.
He's struggling way too fucking much. I cannot do this. I really can't. I cannot finish this fucking video. I've got it on 2x speed, and it's still too slow.
Which is rooted in dialectical materialism, which is what Luna's video was about. And Luna hasn't said anything that has contradicted anything that you're saying, and I'm losing my mind because this is just a huge dog and pony show where
you're losing your mind because you're fucking really fucking stupid. Oh my god. Guys, this is so painful. Guys, go watch Shark's video on this. Go watch Vaush's video on this. Just yeah, the left's kind of in a bad place. We've got, I mean, a little bit, but not really. We're no worse off than we were. And excising dumb fuck fascist sympathizers and people who, I mean, honestly, I don't want to excise EJ and Luna. I don't. I want them to actually understand these concepts, not based on Vietnamese state propaganda, but by the actual concepts, by reading Marx, fuck Engels, by reading, actually, just go full anarchist. Read Bakunin, read Kropotkin, read Proudhon, read Malatesta, read Luxemburg, read Emma Goldman, read fucking actual good theorists, please. Marx is good. Read State and Revolution, because why not? I reject Engels pretty much wholesale. I've read a decent amount of Engels writings, and I just can't. So go do those. Do something more productive than watching NonCompete, because you won't get any actual information. You won't. I promise you. So, yep, that's gonna wrap it up for me here. It's 7:15, and I am hungry. Guys, I don't know. Probably gonna do some drum basics and stuff in the very near future. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do all this. I gotta brush up on some of the basic terms from drumming, because it's been a while since I actually was in college for this shit. This is what I went to college for. Not long, I promise you. But I did go to college, and this is what I learned. Music, percussion. More specifically, I was in jazz and percussion, and choir, and piano, and individual vocal classes, and music theory, and government and poli-sci. So, yay. That's gonna be all. Take care.